You have a demon for a butler? Amaryl was stunned. Michael looked at Knight curiously, thinking whether they have demons or not in their world. I don't think we have demons in this world. At least we haven't come across one yet, Knight chuckled. I have one, but he's in an ethereal form, just like me, huh? Cataly asked Michael. Cataly, bring the body here. We have no need for it anyway. Knight immediately ordered Cataly. Although Cataly could inhabit the body to take physical form, they preferred to get her a physical body suitable for her gender and age. Okie dokie, Cataly disappeared from their sight as Amaryl raised another question. Do you miss your family, Ghost? I would have if I had one, Michael's calm words shocked Amaryl. Everyone turned their gazes at Michael. I am so sorry. You poor thing, can I ask what happened to them? Amaryl, Knight growled, but Michael waved high hand, wordlessly telling Knight that he didn't mind. Only thing I know about them is they throw me away willingly. Don, who was looking at the horizon, turned his gaze towards Michael. He could see the sadness and pain within Ghost's eyes. Even though Ghost tried to hide it, Don could see it. It felt to Don like he was looking at himself in the mirror. Michael, on the other hand, noticed the sadness emerging in Amaryl's eyes. But I have people who care about me more than my family ever did. Michael emphasized the word family. I am glad to hear that. Do that people include a young girl or girls? Again, I am sorry you have to sit here and take her way into someone's personal life questions. Do you mind, Ghost? Amaryl stuck her tongue out at Knight and asked Ghost. The latter just shook his head and didn't get annoyed by Amaryl because Ghost liked Amaryl. Unlike the elves Michael met in his world, she seemed to be a quirky, funny, caring elf. Visits. For the best no_underscore_underscore experience. See Knight, he doesn't mind. Amaryl threw an apple aiming at Knight's head and continued questioning Ghost. Yeah. I have one. And in fact, Michael raised his finger, showing the engagement ring on his finger. You're married? Wait, no, engaged? Michael nodded. Wonderful. I wish I had met her. Suddenly Amaryl burst into a chuckle. Something funny? Aurora asked. I just thought about what she would be called after marrying him. Lady Ghost, What's up with that name anyway? Asked Amaryl laughing. I don't exist, yet I exist. You won't know me until you meet me, and you won't live to tell the tale. Hence Ghost, you are an assassin, aren't you? As soon as Michael uttered these words, Knight asked. But the way you fought and moved. You mixed warrior style into your combat, but the way of the assassins is still there. That's your base. I saw that. Knight's words showed Michael the experience Knight had in battle. Just by looking at how he fought, Knight guessed Michael's origin as the assassin. I am back. As they were talking, Cataly appeared again. Beside her, there was a glass casket with a body inside. Except for the lower body parts, which were covered by a white cloth, the rest was naked. The body belonged to a half-elf in his late teens, maybe 29 or 28. His dark brown hair reached his shoulder. The body was tall and extremely muscular, but not like a bodybuilder. The body was several inches taller than Michael himself. System, can I give this body to Azazel? Yes. But this body does not belong to the host's world. So the system would require 50,000 badass points to adjust the body to fit Azazel's soul. What about transportation? How do I bring the body from Don's universe to mine? The badass points weren't Michael's concern. Rather, he worried about how to take the body with him. Usually, anything that weighed more than 30 kilograms and cannot be lifted by a normal human being couldn't be put into the system storage or any space rings. Since the body does not have a soul, it's basically just a shell. The host can cut them into pieces and store them in the system storage. After reaching your universe, you can merge the parts together. Of course, the system would require 20,000 badass points to do so. No shit, Michael chuckled inside. He expected it because the system would do basically nothing without badass points. Finally, Michael heaved a sigh of relief and crossed one task off his to-do list. Recently, he felt like he had so many things to do. Visits. For a better user experience, he had to help Gaia take over her kingdom and take revenge on her family, find Gaia's mother, assassinate Tenulia, get rid of guardians and vampires, fight the 8 great clans, save sect leader Claire's mother, and reduce Thuxia Kingdom to ashes. These were just a few things on his list. At least with the body, he had one less thing to do. Michael stood up from the grassy ground and walked towards the glass casket. We brought it from an ancient ruin. It's really amazing how the body remained in this condition for thousands of years. He didn't seem like he died of old age. Neither there any cuts nor wounds in his body. After hearing Knight, Michael guessed it was either someone had created the body or sucked the soul out of it. Just like Michael did to Wilkes. It's only collecting dust in our storage. If you have a way to take it with you, feel free, Knight said. How is he going to do that? It's not a shield to put it inside a space ring, Amaryl questioned Knight. Unless his space ring works differently from ours, Aurora commented. Under their curious gazes, Michael placed his hand on the glass. Can you open it? Cataly nodded, waving her hand as the glass between them slowly vanished. What are you planning? Amaryl asked but quickly closed her mouth when she saw Ghost unsheathing his swords. When you have a big problem, cut it into smaller pieces, Michael calmly said before slashing the body with his two swords. He moved so quickly that Amaryl could only see a blur. When he stopped cutting, the body remained intact. At least for a few moments. Then, the body crumbled onto the ground, quickly disappearing from the ground. Problem solved. For a few moments, everyone was stunned. They couldn't help wondering how Ghost planned to piece together the body. Thank you for the body, Michael smiled, breaking the silence. Well, now I don't have to listen to the dwarves saying I should take the body. Cataly was pleased to see the body disappearing from the casket. Hence, she laughed happily. With a flick of his wrist, Michael took out a parchment from his space ring. Before I forget, take this. Michael gave the parchment to Knight. Visit. For a better user experience, this contains the procedure, ingredients, and the formula to create an antiserum for corroded blade and potion to wake anyone from their coma state. This is the least I can do for what you've done to me. Michael felt truly grateful towards them. They did not only give him a legendary shield, but they also gave a body to Azazel. Although it seemed like a normal body, Michael felt immense power from the body. If his gut feeling was right, the body would be worth millions. Moreover, the way they treated Michael earned them his respect and love. They treated him like one of their own and calmed his mind and soul, which helped Michael more than anyone would expect. At that time, Michael just wished he could travel to other universes more often, especially to Everlight. Unfortunately, he began to feel the sucking force. Dawn surprised Michael by looking at the sky. It seems like your time in this world is up. It's been some years since I felt this force. A gentle smile indicated sorrow and gloom on Knight's face. Dawn, can't you stop it? Amaryl grabbed Michael's hands tightly. Even if I can, I want Amaryl. He has to return to his own world, said Dawn as the others took a deep breath and prepared to send off Michael. If fate permits, we will meet again, Amaryl. Michael squeezed Amaryl's shoulder with a smile. Take this. Dawn took out a black card just like the one Hunter gave Michael from his space ring. I think you already know how this works, Knight said as Michael nodded. These two obviously had more secrets than they let him know. But, of course, Michael did not blame them as he had his own secrets too. As seconds passed, Michael felt the sucking force getting stronger and stronger. Finally, his feet almost started to rise from the ground. Remember Ghost. Do not judge anyone before knowing the full story. Michael did not understand the reason behind Dawn's words. It was sudden and unexpected. But Michael had no time to ask Dawn regarding his words as he was pulled upwards by the suction force. I hope we meet again, Ghost. Knight waved with a smile, and so did Aurora and Amaryl. To Michael's surprise, Amaryl even shed some tears for him. Man, I wish I could stay for a couple of days here. While floating in the sky, Michael looked at the beauty of Everlight and sighed. Then the host should earn more badass points. The system almost sounded like it was yelling at Michael. Unfortunately, this is not the time for a vacation system. I still have so much to do. Michael sighed inside and waved back at them. The very next moment, the suction force pulled back Michael from Everlight. A split second before Everlight disappeared from his sight, Michael saw a ghostly figure of a dark figure with thousands of arms hovering over Everlight. The Queen, Michael mumbled as everything around him turned pitch black. Finally, his tour to other universes came to an end. Visits. For the best no_vel_it_Xianxia experience, only one thing remained in the Shadow Realm: the key. That was Michael's last destination before returning to the southern continent. However, he had no idea of the surprise waiting for him at the end of his journey in Shadow Realm. Like gum from someone's mouth, the Shadow Realm spat out Michael. Bang! Michael hit the wall beside Sabrina with enough force to break his shoulder bone. Ghost! Sabrina was startled. One moment Ghost was with her, and the next, he came flying from the opposite side. She didn't fail to hear the sickening crunching sound from his shoulder. His entire right arm looked crooked, but soon, it started to mend itself to its normal state. What just happened? Sabrina whispered frantically, looking around for the monster. But luckily she heard no footsteps. Michael's stomach growled as everything turned blurry. Arg! Michael gritted his teeth, enduring the pain of a broken shoulder. Thanks to the APD, the healing potion had already started to mend his arm. He grabbed the wall with his left hand and slowly picked himself from the ground. While Sabrina was looking at him bewildered, Michael took deep breaths. The monster. It's gone. Sabrina heaved a sigh of relief when she looked around the corner. Let's go. Michael didn't even take a rest but walked around the corner to continue their journey. He had a feeling the journey was coming to an end. What the hell was that? Sabrina asked Michael. There was definitely something happened in a split second, and she wanted an explanation. What do you mean, what just happened? I just got hit by the monster, Michael lied. 1 second I was with you, and the next, some invisible force threw me around like a rag doll. Michael stretched his back while lying to her. We should get the hell out of here before that monster comes, Michael exclaimed. He did not need to tell Sabrina that the monster was dead when they traveled to another universe. Although the people in his world believed in other realms and other worlds, they had no idea there were other universes out there. Even the Shadow Realm was a myth to them, let alone the other universes. Michael liked to keep it that way. The last thing Michael wanted was Noah to start investigating the Shadow Realm and the other universes. Sabrina believed Ghost because his words made sense. After coming out of Everlight, Michael did not speak much. Instead, his brain replayed Don's last words to him, and Michael tried to make sense of those words. What did he mean by that? Michael questioned himself. Luckily for Michael, Hunter cleaned up most of the skinless creatures in the Shadow Realm. Thus, they came across no creatures. Eventually, after walking for another hour, the rune on Sabrina's hand glowed brighter than usual and let out a low-pitched whistling sound. Ghost. Sabrina raised her hand to see the rune pulsing like a heart. Visits. For a better user experience, I think we are close to the key, Michael said. Instead of moving forward, Michael quickly sent his drones into the 2 branching ways in front of them. However, the drones refused to enter the paths as though an invisible shield prevented them from flying through. What should we do? Sabrina asked. What else can we do? Michael raised her hand toward the path and noticed the rune glowing brighter when he pointed her hand towards the right path. Michael did not like walking on an unknown path. Even the system let him down, saying its level is too low to break the energy shield. It was definitely a risk, but Michael had no choice. According to what he learned in Etheria, the key might let the Queen open portals to other universes. Michael connected the dots and concluded that something was stopping the Queen from traveling to other universes. However, the key was something that could remedy the situation in her favor. If Michael could take the key for himself, he could stop a future threat successfully. What's stopping the Queen from getting the key? Michael asked himself. She definitely had minions roaming around the place. So if the key was here, she would have tried to take the key for herself. But something told Michael she didn't get the key yet. According to Hunter, he forgot what happened except killing the skinless creatures in the Shadow Realm. Michael even began to question whether the key was still here or not. Yet, despite everything, he was glad he came to the Shadow Realm. Otherwise, he couldn't have received the Ghost Shield, a physical body for Azazel, and met new people, including his fellow Earthman, Hunter Blade. While Michael was recalling his journey from the beginning from the island to getting out of Everlight, he felt the air suddenly get chillier. Ghost. Sabrina also sensed the change in the air. Both of them stopped to look around the place. As far as they could see, there was nothing but dark walls around them. Michael used his thermal vision to ensure no one was around them and saw nothing. Let's keep our guards up. Michael and Sabrina cautiously took steps forward, expecting trouble any second. The surroundings turned darker and gloomier than usual. The more they walked, the chiller the air became. At one point, Michael conjured his alchemy flames to keep their bodies warm. But, because Michael was expecting trouble, he did not dare to fly and waste his arch energy. An hour later, the rune on Sabrina's light started to radiate a dim emerald green light. Again, they saw no branching ways but a dead end before them. "There's no way," Sabrina whispered, standing close to Michael's alchemy flames. "The key must be somewhere here." Michael once again looked around to find any clues or something out of place. Visits. For the best no_vil_ed_ng experience, suddenly a strong gust of wind put out Michael's alchemy flames. But although they lost the green flames, Sabrina's rune glowed bright enough to light the gloomy place. What was that? Sabrina frantically looked around until she noticed a blood stain on the ground several meters ahead. On the other hand, the cloaked figure that threw Sabrina against the wall repeatedly kicked her in the gut until she began coughing more blood. Michael was not in a better state as he got his head banged against the wall by the cloaked figure behind him. Nevertheless, the APD kept injecting him with healing potions into his bloodstream, which helped Michael from losing consciousness. Unfortunately, Sabrina had no APD. The dark cloaked figure kicked her until she stopped twitching. Leave her alone." Michael stuttered. "Tricky little bugger." Michael heard the deep, beastly voice coming from the dark figure at the fusion stage level. In a blink of an eye, the dark figure appeared before Michael and grabbed Michael's wrist. Michael growled in pain as the dark figure crushed his wrist, destroying the APD. "Beg for your life." The figure ran his finger across Michael's bloody face. Why don't you remove these strings first?" Michael snarled, showing no signs of fear in his eyes. "Bloodsucker." Michael spat blood onto the figure's face and roared like a wounded beast. The dark figure hid his face with the dark cloak, but despite Michael's blurry vision, he saw the two long fangs sticking out of his mouth. "We prefer the term Nightwalkers," as the dark figure exclaimed. The figures slowly removed their cloaks, revealing their fangs and faces. Michael couldn't even guess how they managed to enter the Shadow Realm. He did not even sense them despite all of his countermeasures. One thing was sure to Michael: he was in for a deadly ride. The latest episodes are on website. The fusion stage vampire had slanted obsidian eyes with slitted pupils that could extend on stalks. His mouth had prominent fangs as the red hair was more a set of spines than anything else. Unlike the rest of the tall, thin as stick vampires, he had a graceful build. "You killed our brethren." The vampire came closer to Michael and licked the blood coming off of Michael's forehead. As soon he tasted Michael's blood, he jolted. "This blood, wow." The vampire looked speechless. "I have never tasted such powerful blood. This must be why you are so over the top in cultivation." Each vampire wanted a taste of Michael's blood. But fortunately, the leader decided to beat up Michael to near death before drinking his blood. "Nightwalker? Cowards suit you better," Michael growled. Bang. The vampire behind Michael banged Michael's head against the wall yet again. His tone. Sabrina reached out for Ghost, only to get her hands crushed by the fusion stage vampire. "Why don't we properly introduce ourselves, huh?" The vampire's cold voice echoed through the gloomy dungeon. "I am Zarather, one of the many elders." Zarather punched Michael the moment he finished introducing himself and raised Michael off the ground by his neck. "And you are Ghost, the human who killed one of us?" Bang! Zarather punched Michael in the face, instantly breaking Michael's nose. At that time, Sabrina struggled to get herself up. But, unfortunately, Zarather turned his gaze towards Sabrina. The rune bearer, Zarather picked Sabrina from the ground by her glowing hand. "You have one last task to perform." Zarather slapped Sabrina, almost making her lose consciousness. He dragged her to the wall before them and placed her glowing hand on the wall. The wall pulled her hand like a magnet. With his blurry vision, Michael saw the wall trembling violently. Michael was still looking for a way to escape without revealing his other identity. He wasn't sure if he could kill all of them in his Dark Lord form. In case a vampire escaped the place alive, he would be in a heap of trouble. At that time, the entire Sky Hall and the Guardians would be at his doorsteps. Visits. For the best no-understanding experience, but he saw no other way than turning into a Dark Lord. The vampires were simply too strong to fight as Ghost. Several moments later, the wall slowly crumbled down, revealing an empty hollow. Where is the key? Zarather creased his brows. He put his hand inside the hollow to search for the key but found nothing. Just like everyone else, Michael was startled by the twist too. After dealing with everything, he learned that the key had already been taken by someone else. Hunter's face came before Michael's eyes. But after recalling Hunter's words, Michael didn't think Hunter had taken the key. Where is the key? Zarather turned his gaze toward Sabrina. Zarather grabbed Sabrina's neck, starting to squeeze her neck. Her face slowly turned purple as she twitched violently for air. Looking at Sabrina slowly dying, the images of the first time they met, their journey, and how she blanketed him with a smile flashed across Michael's eyes. System, take a loan and break the strings. Even if the host took the maximum amount of loan, you would still lack points to break the strings. Taking a loan was Michael's last line of defense. He clenched his fist after hearing the system's words. I know where the key is, Michael stuttered. As soon as Zarather heard Michael, he took his gaze away from Sabrina. Where? Asked Zarather. Leave her alone and I will tell you. If you don't, I will snap her neck. Instead of letting Sabrina go, Zarather lifted her higher. You can't get the key without her. Michael could barely utter these words due to the intense pain in his head. Finally, Zarather released his grip around Sabrina's neck. She frantically gasped for air on the ground. Now tell us, System, can you teleport us out of here? The system can't teleport with the cursed chains around you visits. For the best no____ experience, yet again the system let Michael down. Only by one, every plan Michael came up with failed because of the cursed chains around him. Tell him, the vampire behind Michael lost his patience. As a result, he kicked Michael in the knee. Arg! Michael growled in pain and to be honest, he wanted to scream out loud. His knee was shattered by the vampire with a single kick. The pain was simply too much. However, the vampire did not stop with breaking his knees. Instead, the vampire kicked him on the back as Michael hit the ground with enough force to crack his jaw. Where is the key? Zarather placed his boot on Michael's face, pressing his face against the floor. Let him go. Sabrina struggled to pick herself up, and she did by mustering every bit of strength left in her body. Look at these two. Playing games, Zarather burst into a peal of evil laughter. She has a rune and he has sweet heavenly blood. I am confused about which one to kill you first. Why do I feel like you both have no idea about the key? Zarather frowned. I said, Sabrina wiped off the blood from the corner of her mouth. Let him go. No one expected Sabrina to suddenly leap at Zarather except Zarather. He reacted just in time and grabbed Sabrina by her neck. At that time, Michael was under his boot and Sabrina was in his hand, fighting for her life. But no matter how hard she hit Zarather's hand, he did not let her go. As Zarather was crushing Michael with his boots, another vampire appeared out of thin air and came rushing to Zarather. Michael noticed the vampire whispering something into Zarather's ear. The order directly came from the above? Zarather questioned the vampire as the dark figure nodded. The latter didn't even notice Michael and Sabrina. What a pity, Zarather sighed. Well, an order is an order. I am not good at choosing though. Zarather looked at both Sabrina and Michael for a moment. Then when he stepped back, another vampire lifted Michael off the ground by his neck. So I am in a dilemma. Zarather put his hand behind his snack and began to walk left and right. I have good and bad news. Good news first. Luckily, my superiors want me to leave one of you alive so you would go outside and tell the world not to fuck with Nightwalkers, Zarather exclaimed. Which brings me to the bad news. Leaving one of you alive means one of you has to die. Hey Race, why I am in a bind. Zarather pointed his finger at Michael. You have a delicious sweet blood I have never tasted in my life. Then he pointed his finger at Sabrina. You have the rune, which is probably something we might need in the future, visits. For a better user experience, Zarather rubbed his chin, pretending to be conflicted. So, who should I let live? Ghost. As Zarather was rubbing his chin, Sabrina turned to look at Ghost. The blood running across his eyes still blurred his vision, yet he could vaguely see Sabrina's tears. Despite the situation, she managed to smile warmly. Thank you for everything. Seeing Sabrina suddenly smiling and talking to Ghost, Zarather, and all the vampires locked their gazes with Sabrina. It's my fault. I am sorry I put you through all of this, she spoke, fighting through the lump in her throat. Her tears gushed out like a flood breaking out of the dam. Tell my family I didn't die a coward, Sabia. Michael couldn't even pronounce her name correctly because of his broken jaw. At that time, Michael had a cracked frontal lobe, a shattered knee, and a broken jaw. Even if he broke the strings, he wouldn't be able to fight without chugging several healing potions. When I prayed for my brother to rescue me, you appeared before me. Without Michael's control, tears rolled out of his eyes. He clenched his fist, knowing what she was about to do. It was obvious she plans to kill herself so the vampires would let him live. However, how could anyone believe the vampires? Michael had never felt so powerless like this ever before in his life. If he transformed himself into Dark Lord, Sabrina would learn the truth about him. If he didn't, she would die for him. Why? Michael really wondered why Sabrina wanted to sacrifice herself for him. He wasn't Noah or her family. Instead, he was a stranger to her. They practically spend a few hours together. Yet, Sabrina prepared to kill herself so Michael could live. The vampires, on the other hand, looked at her pain with joyful grins on their faces. They enjoyed Sabrina's suffering. Noah, that brat would kill me if he knew. Sabrina let out a miserable smile. The images of her childhood, the time she spent with her family, and her happy memories flashed across her eyes. But thank you for being the greatest big brother to me in the last moments of my life, Sabrina softly said to Michael. Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 5,000 badass points. Michael crushed the beating heart of the vampire with his bare hand. The gruesome sight affected already terrified vampires. Before the vampires could react, Michael dashed at another vampire. Bang! Michael headbutted the vampire, distorting the vampire. Then, Michael pulled out the vampire's throat with his bare hands. However, that did not kill the vampire. Holding his throat, the vampire growled as Michael grabbed the vampire by his head and burned his head with the dark flames. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is the Soul Refining Stage Level 7. After leveling up, Michael's power skyrocketed as more and more vampires began to be affected by the cloud of darkness. However, some of them snapped out of their shock and dashed at Michael, casting various speed spells. Michael just cast the Ring of Fire to create the dark flame ring around him to burn the vampires. The vampires reacted quickly by shielding them with a translucent blood-red energy shield. Regardless of their shields, the dark flames burnt their skin. Arg! The vampires screamed in agony as the air in the dungeon reeked with the stench of burning flesh. Shit! Zarather tried to teleport back to their headquarters. The vampires did not dare to underestimate the Dark Lord. Hence, instead of fighting him alone, Zarather tried to get back up from their headquarters. Yet no matter how many times he tried, he couldn't teleport himself. Visits. For the best no_vel_ed_ng experience at that time, the vampires shot several blood beams at Michael. Cling, cling. Michael quickly raised his arm, taking out his shield and blocking the beams. Despite the lightness of the shield, it stopped all the attacks. While blocking the blood beams, Michael locked his gaze with the vampire who banged his head against the wall earlier. The vampire felt a chill running down his spine when he saw the Dark Lord's head turning towards him. He didn't even blink an eye when Michael appeared before him. Michael was pushing himself to the absolute limit. Thus, he moved fast to the point he left after images. Although the vampires and Michael were at the same cultivation stage, the darkness and anger made him several times more powerful than them. Michael was a god, after all. The vampires barely had time to cast any spells or even to attack him. Bang! Michael dragged the vampire to the same wall against which the vampire banged his head and returned the favor. Usually, Michael would quickly finish off his enemies, but now he wanted them to suffer for killing Sabrina. Zarather saw Michael banging the vampire's head against the wall mercilessly until the head turned into a bloody mush. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Zarather finally gave up on trying to teleport away and decided to attack the Dark Lord. He dashed at Michael at the speed of lightning. But Michael already moved on to another target. Despite Michael's overwhelming anger, he kept the anger from blinding him. He wanted to get as strong as possible before targeting Zarather. Therefore, Michael picked the soul-refining stage vampires one by one. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Michael killed another 2 vampires by crushing their heads in the blink of an eye. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is the Soul Refining Stage Level 8. In a few moments, Michael killed 5 out of 12 vampires and almost became as powerful as a Fusion Stage Level 4 warrior. Visit. For a better user experience, suddenly Michael looked at the dark sky and roared to the point the entire dungeon trembled. His voice turned demonic without using any modulators. H kept roaring until the walls began to crack, and the vampires collapsed to the ground covering their ears. A few vampires even bled through their ears and eyes. When Michael stopped roaring, Zarather felt like a storm had passed by them. He saw the Dark Lord breathing heavily, and the place became darker every time his chest rose up. You! The Dark Lord pointed his finger at Zarather. Zarather took a deep breath and dashed at him. Michael covered himself with dark flames while Zarather enveloped himself with a blood shield. When the two of them clashed, the shock wave sent the vampires flying onto the walls. Michael sent several bolts of lightning toward the vampires who were burnt by the dark flames when he cast the Ring of Fire. Unfortunately, they were already on the verge of death, so they died instantly when the lightning bolt hit them. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is the Soul Refining Stage Level 9. If the current stage was not enough, Michael consumed several Berserker pills to boost his strength. Instead of using the swords, Michael took out the Doombringer and swung at Zarather as fast as he could. The latter was caught off guard as he didn't expect Dark Lord to fight using a warhammer. Zarather quickly waved his hand as a blood stream materialized in front of him, saving him from the warhammer. However, he didn't see Dark Lord disappearing from his sight once again. Bang! Michael brought the Doombringer on a vampire's head. Zarather dashed at Michael to stop him from killing more of his brethren. Yet, Michael had already killed another 2 by crushing their heads with the Doombringer. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is the Soul Refining Stage Level 10. Only 3 vampires remained in the dungeon at that time, including Zarather. No one would have suffered as you will. Michael growled at Zarather and raised his hands as the remaining 2 vampires began to rise from the ground. They slowly floated toward Michael while Zarather closed his eyes, summoning a large red chakra made of blood. Go! Zarather fired the chakra at Michael as Michael sent a powerful gust of wind mixed with darkness to halt the chakra in midair. The momentary halt gave Michael enough time to kill the remaining 2 vampires. He first burnt them using the dark flames to prevent them from casting any spells. Then, he hit their heads with the Doombringer, using every bit of his strength. Visits. For a better user experience, ding. Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 8,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 20,000 badass points. Congratulations to the host for reaching the next stage, the fusion stage. After killing every single vampire except Zarather, Michael had finally reached the fusion stage to become the youngest cultivator to reach the fusion stage. No one in the entire world achieved such a humongous feat, not even Layla or Victoria, the princess of Wuxia. By reaching the fusion stage at a young age, Michael sealed the chance to become an immortal in the future. However, nothing was in his mind at that moment except killing Zarather and making him pay for what he did to Sabrina. To be honest, Michael had never felt such anger ever before in his life. Not even when Spectre and his students killed everyone in Michael's orphanage back on Earth. When he sensed Sabrina's heartbeat stops, his anger exploded within him. Zarather may have stood a chance against the Dark Lord when Michael was at the soul-refining stage. Now, he was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered in front of Michael. Michael released all the fear toxins stored in the microtubes within his armor as the fear toxins slowly entered Zarather's bloodstream. In addition, Michael used everything to boost his strength. The Dark Lord, Zarather mumbled under his breath as fear slowly clasped his heart. You just sealed the fate of your kind, Michael threatened Zarather. Instead of dashing at Zarather using his lightning dash spell, Michael slowly stepped toward him. Blood Beam. Rage Chakra. Life Sucker. Zarather cast spell after spell to stop and kill Michael, but Michael deflected the spells using the Ghost Shield and Responsive Shield. Of course, some of the spells hit Michael and made him bleed, but he was too furious to feel any pain. As the Dark Lord approached Zarather, the latter stopped casting spells that would take too much time to cast and began to cast quick spells. At that time, Michael was bombarded with arrows made of blood shooting out of Zarather's arms. Although the responsive shield couldn't stop the arrows completely, it absorbed most of the arrows' energy and made them weak. Thus, the arrows that escaped the ghost shield grazed Michael. As a result, he has multiple cuts and bruises on his body. Ding! One of the arrows hit Michael in the face and took a piece of his skull mask, leaving half of Michael's face exposed. Despite everything, Michael approached Zarather under the rain of arrows. Hundreds of arrows rained down on Michael from all directions. If the spell was cast on someone else, they would have been skewered by the arrows and turned into a bloody mush. The power of a fusion stage cultivator was not a joke, as even the weakest combat spell would be deadly when a fusion stage cultivator cast the spell. Under the rain of arrows, Michael finally arrived in front of Zarather and grabbed him by his neck. Now the tables were turned as Michael squeezed Zarather's throat. Next, Michael raised his other hand, pinching Zarather's fang. The vampire squirmed violently as Michael pulled out his fang with his bare hand. Arg! Zarather frantically squirmed in Michael's hand. The vampire couldn't scream out loud because Michael's hand was around his neck. Otherwise, Zarather's scream would have echoed through the dungeon. While Zarather was squirming in agony, Michael pulled out his other fang. Visits. For a better user experience bang. After pulling his second and last fang, Michael punched Zarather right in the mouth, breaking all of his teeth. Typically, Michael would have interrogated the vampire to know the location of their headquarters, more information about the key, and who sent them all. However, at that moment, Michael wasn't in the mood for interrogation but torture. Still, a corner of his mind told him to take the ring in Zarather's hand. Arg! Instead of removing the arm, Michael broke Zarather's middle finger and ripped the finger clean off from his hand. Michael then stored the bloody finger in his system storage before throwing Zarather to the wall on the other side. Bang! Zarather went flying to the wall like a kite without an anchor. The fear toxin made thinking difficult for Zarather. His mind was in a boggle as Michael raised his hand towards the Doombringer which lay on the ground several meters away from him. He controlled the wind element surrounding the Doombringer and made the war hammer fly into his arm. Michael stepped on the vampire between him and Zarather, crushing the vampire's head under his feet. Granted, the dungeon was usually dark and gloomy. Still, it had never been dark and gloomier than at that moment when Michael approached Zarather with the Doombringer in his hand. Teleport. Teleport. Teleport me away. Zarather screamed in his mind, but nothing happened no matter how many times he ordered his minions to teleport him away. He quickly raised his arm to cast a spell, Blood Dash. However, his spell casting was abruptly cut short as a bolt of lightning went straight through his shoulder. Another lightning bolt went through another shoulder, cutting his spell casting short. Wait. Listen Dash. Zarather tried to escape the Dark Lord's wrath by striking a deal with him. But, of course, it would have worked if Zarather hadn't forced Sabrina to kill himself. Boom. Visit. For a better user experience, a powerful gust of wind blasted Zarather against the wall on another side. Bang. Zarather hit the wall, but before hitting the ground, another gust of wind blasted him to another wall. The wind blast turned Zarather into a rag doll, flying around. The wind blast powered by celestial energy and dark flames had enough force to break many of Zarather's bones in his body. When Zarather finally hit the ground after getting blasted into the walls like a doll, his right arm and left leg looked crooked. If it wasn't for the vampire's ability to regenerate, Zarather would have died by now. However, his healing ability was interrupted by the dark flames mixed with the wind blasts Michael sent in his direction. Michael noticed the cuts in Zarather's body slowly closing up and conjured a ball of dark flame in his hand. Zarather felt a chill looking at the dark flames dancing above his hand. In his 200 years of life, he had never seen such a powerful, ominous flame. No healing. Michael sent a blast of dark flames, scorching Zarather's clothes and skin. The strong stench of burning skin would nauseate anyone who takes a whiff of the air in the dungeon. Arghar. This time, Zarather's scream wasn't muffled by Michael. Thus, his scream echoed through the dungeon halls for miles. The dark flame made Zarather unrecognizable. His striking red hair was completely burnt by the flame, as well as his black robes. The only thing that kept Zarather alive and lasted his agony was the regenerative ability of a vampire. Michael let Zarather heal a bit so he could inflict more pain on him. Then, on his way to Zarather, Michael burnt every single vampire on the ground with the dark flames. As a result, the vampires turned into a pile of ashes. The entire ground was engulfed by the dark flame except for the area around Sabrina's body. He controlled the fire from reaching her as Michael wanted to hand over Sabrina to her family and give her a proper burial. The vampires were not the only reason for her death. The Guardians were just as guilty as the vampires. If it wasn't for them, she wouldn't have been here. The Guardians could have easily come up with another safe plan to get the key with Sabrina's help. Instead, they looked for a quick and dirty way, endangering Sabrina's life. As far as Tanulia and her fellow Guardians were concerned, the end justifies the means. But unlike they expected, everything went south, and Sabrina ended up dying. Michael didn't know about Noah, but he would avenge Sabrina's death. By killing every Guardian who knew about Sabrina and whoever stands in his way when he brings down the wrath of the darkness upon them. For now, he only focused on making Zarather pay. Nothing more, nothing less. Thank you for being the greatest big brother to me. Michael repeated Sabrina's last words as he raised his hand, making the wind beneath Zarather lift him up against the wall. Will you tell me who sent you here? Michael asked Zarather coldly. Go, fuck yourself. Visit. For a better user experience, Zarather spat on Michael's face, but thanks to the dark flames, his bloody saliva vaporized before it could reach Michael's face. It doesn't make a difference. You will suffer the same. Michael kicked Zarather's, shattering his knee and making him collapse down. Zarather growled as Michael put his feet on Zarather's shoulder and pushed him down while holding his head with his hands. Michael suddenly shook his head as the skull mask flew away from his face. Look at my face. Michael tightened his grip around Zarathar's burnt face. This is the face who is going to destroy your kind. Michael pushed down Zarathar and began to lift up Zarathar's head until the head started to separate from his body. Arg! The sickening scream of Zarhat reverberated in the dungeon, but there was no one to stop Michael. Suddenly dark blood sprayed out of Zarathar's body as Michael separated his head from the body with bare hands. Plop! Michael kicked down Zarathar's headless body and looked at the severed head in his hand. He raised the head to eye level to see the fear and pain in Zarathar's eyes. At that moment, every bit of Michael's focus was on Zarathar's head. The world around him just paused in his perspective. That was the reason Michael failed to notice the slight disturbance in the air behind him. Ghost. Michael heard a familiar voice from behind as his body froze for a moment. But instead of dashing away or trying to disappear from the place, Michael slowly turned around because he knew it was too late to do anything. When he turned around with Zarathar's head in his hands, he saw Sabrina standing before him. Her white robes were drenched in blood, and the sword was still sticking through her chest. Due to the blood loss, she looked pale, but she was alive as Michael could hear her heartbeat. Visits. For the best no_of__G experience you're the Dark Lord. You're the Dark Lord. Sabrina shivered as she looked at Ghost's face through all the dark mist and cloud enveloping him. She slowly dragged her feet towards Michael. It's you. She could barely raise her hand to touch his face. Sabrina. Michael was conflicted. He saw her die and sensed her heartbeat stop. Yet she was standing before him alive. His mind was boggled. How? Michael questioned himself. At that time, he didn't know when he roared in anger, the sound kick-started her heart again. His roar contained such power. As she was touching his face, she suddenly lost the strength in her legs and collapsed back, only to get caught by Michael. He squatted down slowly, putting her on the ground while drawing out the sword from her chest. He immediately took out a healing potion to give her, but she shook her head and swatted away the healing potion. Let me die. Otherwise, Sabrina coughed up blood, your secret won't be safe. She smiled despite the excruciating pain in her chest. Do you think I am evil as everyone says? Michael asked Sabrina, you're far from evil. She touched Michael's cheek again with her bloody hand. For some reason, her gentle smile warmed his heart and made him calm down. Your brother and everyone in this world hunt me. They think I am evil, Michael calmly said, yet they weren't here to stop the actual evil. Sabrina coughed a couple of more times as her face turned paler. Michael could sense her heartbeat slowing down. She had lost too much blood. At this point, even the healing potion couldn't guarantee her survival unless Michael gave her his 90% pure healing potion along with a potion to make her body produce more blood. Can you give my body to my family? Sabrina asked, tears rolling down her eyes. Don't tell them what happened to me. Father and mother must not know about anything. Even in her dying breath, she didn't want her family to be saddened by her death. I died instantly by some poisoning. You can make them believe it, right? Michael couldn't understand the girl's thought process at all. She wanted to sacrifice herself so he could feel better knowing his secret was safe. However, if she died when he could have easily saved her, his heart would nag him until he dies. Michael hated that feeling. So you want to die so I will feel better? Michael questioned Sabrina. That's the least I can do for you, visits. For a better_user experience, will you tell others my secret? Sabrina slowly shook her head right away. If I let you die, then I'll be the evil they say I am. As soon as he said these words, a sparkling blue potion materialized in his hand. Sabrina tried to resist, but he simply overpowered her and poured the potion into her mouth. After emptying the potion into her mouth, he took out a blood-red potion and chugged it down her throat just like before. It didn't even take the potion a few seconds to start healing her body. Just several seconds later, Michael noticed the wound in her chest rapidly closing up as the rosiness in her skin returned. Compared to all the few risks Michael took in this world, saving Sabrina might just be the biggest. Now she knew his biggest secret, which could end his life in this world if exposed. Nonetheless, Michael saved her because she basically sacrificed herself for him and willing to die again so his secret could be safely buried with her. Michael simply wasn't ready to let her die to keep his secret. If he had let her die, there would be no difference between him and the Guardians. Finally, Sabrina felt her strength returning to her body as well as the pain lessening. Her vision cleared, enabling her to see Ghost's face more clearly. "Why did you save me?" She was still on the ground with her head in his hand. "Because I am stupid and not evil enough," Michael sighed, chuckling. "But this doesn't change anything. If your brother comes after me, I will kill him." Michael's smile disappeared from his face as the dark cloud around him appeared again, stronger and denser. It took a few seconds for Sabrina to get to her feet, and the moment she did, she asked Michael, "But why do you two want to kill each other?" "He wants to capture me and brings me to justice. Your brother still doesn't know how this world works. He wants to save the world, yet he couldn't even save his own sister." Sabrina wanted to talk back to save Noah's image but simply couldn't find any words because he was right. "I trust you with my biggest secret, Sabrina. Don't break my trust." Michael placed his hand on her shoulder and squeezed. Although his gentle smile calmed her mind, she did feel so confused and startled by what she had just learned. Still, she had no idea her brother Noah was the god of light who was destined to battle the god of darkness. She also didn't know her brother was the next supreme guardian. As far as she knew, her brother was one of the guardians who were trying to capture the Dark Lord. Despite everything, "You have my word, you can trust me. I'd rather die than expose your secret. I know." Visits. For a better user experience, since she literally died and again tried to die just to keep his secret safe. Thus, Michael had no trust issues with her. It was a risk, yet Michael wouldn't have it any other way. "We better find a way out of here." Michael closed his eyes for a moment, willing the system to unequip his Lucifer armor. In a blink of an eye, Sabrina saw the Dark Lord turns back into Ghost. She felt speechless when she looked around the place and noticed the piles of ashes lying around. There was not a single vampire who lived to tell the tale. While Sabrina was in shock, Michael went to the hollow in the hall to inspect the wall. "The key? Where did you go?" Michael ran his hand all over the hollow yet found nothing. "Who took you?" Sabrina, Michi, quickly had a thought as he called Sabrina to him. When she arrived by his side, he took her hand and placed it inside the hollow. The rune in her hand surprisingly began to bright glow brighter than ever. "Ah," she suddenly squealed as though something bit her hand. "What?" asked Michael with both an excited and concerned look on his face. "The key," she stuttered. "Where is it?" For a few moments, Sabrina just stood there like a living statue. When Michael looked into her eyes, he saw fear and shock. "The key, yes, the key, what about it? Did you see its location?" Michael asked, slightly shaking her shoulders. "Margoth? The key is Margoth." "Margoth?" Michael was taken aback by surprise. If his memory was right, Margoth was the venom-like creature attached to Draven in Etheria. "What do you mean?" Michael wondered whether Sabrina had traveled to Etheria or not. "I can't describe it. I just felt it." "The key is Margoth," Sabrina mumbled, making Michael confused. "Ghost." She suddenly took her gaze away from the hollow in the wall to Michael. "The latest underscores are on the website. I heard something else." Her face was pale as she trembled. Michael had to grab her shoulder to stop her from shivering. "The voice. It sounded like your other voice." Her words startled Michael. The voice said, "The key is safe with Draven, and the Queen can't take it for now. The future me." Michael immediately thought about his future self. It was apparent to Michael that his future self had something to do with the key. If his instincts were right, the Dark Lord from the future sent the key to Etheria to keep it safe from the Queen. However, he couldn't grasp the concept of Margoth. How could Margoth be the key? That question riddled Michael's mind non-stop. "I assume we can't get the key then," Michael sighed. Although he was disappointed, Sabrina's words calmed his mind down. At least the Queen wouldn't be able to get the key for now. Still, Michael wanted to make sure the key stays safe forever out of the Queen's grasp. He had enough enemies to deal with, and the last thing he wanted was another powerful being like Athrea to come after him. Fortunately, Dawn reassured Michael he would take care of her in his universe. Draven would keep the keys safe in Etheria. The only unpredictable thing about the key was not the Queen but Hunter. Michael had no idea what was Hunter's plan. He literally killed Etheria's soul and tried to absorb her. He was crazy and powerful as far as Michael could see. At least for now, Michael didn't have to worry about the key. Finally, his journey throughout the dungeon came to an end. The one last thing that remained for him to do was to find a way out of the place. Let's look around the place. We still haven't figured out a way to get out of here. You know anything about the voices and this thing called Margoth? Sabrina suddenly questioned Michael, only to see him shake his head. Being the Dark Lord doesn't mean I know everything. Since Michael was an expert liar, Sabrina couldn't help believing him. But can you at least snap us out of her with your god powers? I can't, but I think the way out of the Shadow Realm is here somewhere, Michael said as he looked around the empty place again. He used every type of vision, including the thermal vision, to see any weird heat signatures. While he was looking around, Sabrina concentrated on the glowing rune in her hand. Maybe the way out is with me, Sabrina mumbled. Michael then saw Sabrina raise her hand towards the sky with her eyes closed. He wondered what she was trying to do, but surprisingly, he sensed the space around them distorting as though she was activating a teleportation portal. Visit. For a better user experience, the brightness of the rune on her hand suddenly soared through the roof as its golden light lit the entire gloomy dungeon with its radiance. Under the warm light, Michael felt his body being lifted above. Soon afterward, the both of them just vanished into thin air. The teleportation array in the Shadow Realm teleported the two of them back to the island entrance. Since time was not a concept in the Shadow Realm, nothing had changed on the island. The dead bodies of the vampires littered the sandy shore while the ship danced with the wind on the blue sea. Not even a second passed here, Michael said after looking at the dead bodies. The blood on the sandy shore was just as warm as he left. Sabrina took a deep breath, calming her mind and soul. She had gone through so many things over the last couple of weeks. Now she wanted nothing more than a good sleep on her own bed. However, the fact that Ghost was the Dark Lord and Noah might come across him worried her. She witnessed the Dark Lord in action and truly feared for Noah's life. I can teleport you outside the void line. From there, you can fly to Kethin. Michael quickly bought a teleportation scroll from the system and threw it at Sabrina. What will you do? Sabrina, this is where we will depart, Michael said, instead of answering her question. If I were you, I'd tell everything Guardians, and the vampires did to you to your brother and sister. The far your brother is from the Guardians, the better for him. What about you? Will you tell him if you get the chance? Asked Sabrina bewilderedly. Make no mistake, Sabrina. As long as your brother is a Guardian and coming after me, hell be my foe. I don't usually show mercy to my foes. However, I always had a soft spot for you, Winstons. That's why I am giving you a chance to let your brother know the true face of the Guardians. Sabrina trembled hearing his cold tone as he continued. Your brother is being used by the Guardians. Now you have a chance to show him the true colors of the Guardians. I will tell him everything except the truth about you. Michael nodded, appreciating Sabrina's conviction to keep his secret safe. Will we meet anytime sooner? When Michael started to descend into the air, she asked him. Although they were inside the void line, Sabrina wasn't surprised to see him using arch energy. At this point, nothing about him could surprise her. Michael, however, did not give her an answer but just smiled. The next moment he turned himself into a lightning bolt and disappeared from the island, leaving Sabrina behind. She started at the trail of golden light he left behind until he completely disappeared from her sight. Only then did she take a deep breath and tear the scroll, activating it. After finally leaving the island, Michael flew towards Gisel. He could teleport to reach Gisel instantly, but Michael chose to fly because he wanted to calm his mind and soul. Flying alone always enabled him to think clearly. Although Sabrina learned his secret, he couldn't get himself to kill her. While flying towards Gisel, Michael flicked his wrist as a vial of blood appeared in his hand. The vial contained Sabrina's blood. His hand literally shivered to hold the vial. If his instincts were proven correct, it would shake him to the core and change his world upside down. With everything in his mind, Michael continued to fly toward Jisal. Almost after 4 hours, when the sun reached the center of the sky, Michael finally saw the kingdom of Jisal on the horizon. My lord. He was about to use the runic teleportation to reach Caius' mansion when he heard Azazel's voice in his head. Azazel. Michael stopped in his pace by Azazel's voice. My lord, you should come to the dark forest as soon as possible. What happened? Michael creased his brows, turning around. Please teleport here, my lord. The latest underscores are on the website. Before Michael could question him more, the connection got interrupted. Realizing something was wrong, Michael immediately activated the runic teleportation to reach the dark forest. Back in the dark forest, Azazel was standing in Michael's room alone. He gawked around, waiting for Michael to appear. Finally, when Michael appeared, he heaved a sigh of relief. On the other hand, Michael was in his complete Lucifer form to go all out in a battle. However, unlike he expected, there were no enemies in his room except Azazel. It took Michael a second to realize what had just happened. But it was too late as he got hit by something soft and fluffy in a blink of an eye. Surprise Mickey! Michael was on the ground, and Gaia was on top of him with the brightest smile on her face. Gaia. Michael was startled by Gaia's surprise appearance. She ripped off his mask and showered him with kisses. In return, Michael hugged her and stood up, holding her tight. Since Azazel had done his job by bringing Michael to the dark forest, he quickly left the room, leaving Michael and Gaia alone. Gaia just pushed him to the bed and locked her lip with his like a hungry kitten. I missed you so much. After parting her lips from his, she panted and said, I missed you too. The smile on Gaia's face instantly vanished as she creased her brows. Something happened? With a single look at his face, Gaia knew something was bothering him. Tell me what happened. Michael knew there was no point in changing the subject or lying to her. Thus, he took a deep breath and began narrating everything that had happened since he met Sabrina on the island. Surprisingly, after listening to Michael, Gaia gently patted him on the back. It's okay. You did the right thing. You would have been no different than the fucking Guardians if you had killed her. She is a Winston. She won't break her word. Michael somewhat felt calmed and reassured after hearing Gaia's words. Besides, I am here. You don't have to face the shit alone anymore. Let's kick things up, Michael smiled as she pecked him on the cheek. You're not supposed to get out of Akilon till next week. So how did you come here? Michael asked. Just got an early vacation thanks to Headmistress Kayla. Eladir will be here by tomorrow. Michael and Gaia just lay on the door, staring at the ceiling. Visits. For a better user experience, dude, you had done some sick shit without me. Gaia sighed as she sighed in disappointment. It's good that you placed a spider in her body and gave her the blood tonic. If she tries to fuck with us, we can fuck her back by making her explode. The healing potion Michael made Sabrina drink was mixed with the blood tonic in case Sabrina tried to reveal his secret to Noah or anyone else. Unlike the spiders Tanulia found in her worship, the new ones Michael placed were enhanced by Eladir's runes and were undetectable. So if Sabrina tried to betray him, Michael could kill her with a snap of his fingers. Besides, Michael could mess with Noah by blackmailing him if the push comes to shove. Although Michael didn't like to use Sabrina as a pawn in a game between him and Noah, there was no harm in having many backup plans. So, what's our next move? Now that I am here, we can cross off some of the things on your to-do list. Giving Azazel his physical body, Michael rose from the bed while ordering the system to take out the body pieces and merge them. Azazel, Gaia called out the butler when she saw the body of a half-elf appear in the room. Gaia approached the body to run her fingers across the half-elf Boda's face. Well, I always imagined Azazel getting some gray-haired human body since he looks like that now. My lady, as Gaia was checking out the body, Azazel appeared in the room. So you were with her to prank me, huh? Azazel looked slightly embarrassed and apologetic with a sly smile. It's okay. I brought you a gift. Michael gestured at the body as a glimmer of joy and surprise emerged in Azazel's eyes. He slowly floated towards the body. My lord, do you like it? Yes, my lord. This body, the energy, it's overwhelming. Azazel stammered. Unlike Michael and Gaia, His demon origin enabled Azazel to sense the overwhelming energy radiating from the body. "Now when you are ready, just get inside the body," Michael said and waited for Azazel to enter the body. After he entered, Michael summoned the system. "System, take the badass points and merge Azazel's soul with the body. As you wish, host," the system said and took 50,000 badass points, as it mentioned to Michael when he was in Everlight. After the system took the required badass points, a golden light shot out from Michael to the half-elf's body. The light soon enveloped the body, radiating an otherworldly whistling sound. "We can now take him anywhere with us, right? Visit. For a better user experience, yes. That's the plan." Michi nodded, waiting for the golden light to disappear from the room. The light almost lingered around the body for another 15 minutes. Then after the light gradually faded away, Michael and Gaia saw Azazel slowly opening his eyes, revealing crimson red eyes. As soon as Azazel opened his eyes, the system brought Azazel's status window before Michael's eyes. Subordinate, Azazel Sebastian Cultivation Level, Soul Refining Stage Level 3 Race, Demon, Half-Elf Body, Status, Healthy Trait, Butler, Unique, Loyalty towards the Host, 100% Skills, Phantom Possession Bind Area Teleportation Blood Thirsty Imitator Phantom Form Mind Dominator. Phantom Possession is the ability of Azazel to possess a weak-willed enemy for a moment. Azazel can bend the space around it to teleport near the host and the bound area. Azazel can absorb blood essence to temporarily grow stronger. Azazel can imitate the host's spells and skills. The imitated skills and spells will not be as powerful as the host's arsenal. Azazel can choose to hide from the naked eyes. Only the host and a chosen subordinate could see Azazel when he's using the phantom form. Azazel's voice could dominate weak-willed enemies' bodies. Michael noticed the change in Azazel's skills. The phantom touch had transformed into the phantom possession. It made sense to Michael as Azazel now had a physical form. "Finally, I can serve my lord and my lady to the fullest of my abilities." Azazel immediately dropped to his knees and placed his hand on his chest. "The fun is just getting started, Sebastian," Gaia devilishly grinned. "Visit. For the best no_G experience." After giving Azazel a physical body, Michael sent Azazel out for a moment. "So I can see you've reached Soul Refining Stage Level 2, Michael commented on her cultivation level. Thanks to the resources Mazeroth gave all their staff, Gaia was able to reach the Soul Refining stage pretty quickly. Besides, she still had the 40% cultivation speed boost from the system. "It's still not enough. I have to get stronger." "What cultivation stage are you at?" "You are looking at a fusion stage cultivator, my dear snake," Michael smirked. Gaia was completely startled by his words. She thought he could not surprise her anymore, but she was proven wrong at that moment. To be honest, she was speechless after hearing him. Thus, for a few moments, she just stared at him without blinking an eye. "What the fuck is wrong with you? It's not fair." She stomped the ground, snarling. "Every time I think I'm getting close to you, you just jump from one stage to another like crossing a puddle." Michael quickly wrapped his hand around her shoulder and pecked her on the cheek. "Don't be angry, my dear Queenie. It'll make you just as strong as I am. You better. I can't be weaker than any of our subordinates. Let's go to that fucking aqua auction and buy something that could make me stronger, and we will go to the treacherous ocean and clean the place out." Gaia's eyes went wide, but soon a grin emerged on her face. "That sounds like a fucking dangerous yet my kind of plan." Gaia playfully bit his cheek. "The last time I went there, I was pretty weak. Now I will see who's gonna stop us. But before that, we have to go to the auction and knock out a few other things." "Like what?" "Like meeting Dalar and seeing the state of our undead army," Michael answered. "Let's go." Michael then willed the system to activate the runic teleportation. In a blink of an eye, they appeared in the dimly lit halls of the crypt, where Jonah and Dalar were busy dissecting an undead on an oak table. "Visit. For a better user experience, what the fuck are you two doing?" Gaia's voice echoed through the empty hall, startling Dalar and Jonah. The previously clean, shiny hall now looked bloody and dirty as Michael felt like he had entered a slaughterhouse. The place was a horror house, and Michael did not like it. "My lord, my lady," Jonah and Dalar shivered, looking at the anger within the Dark Queen's tone. Her crimson-red eyes glistened behind the skull mask. "Is this how you two keep our base?" She clenched her fist. Luckily for Dalar and Jonah, Michael grabbed her hands before she blasted them away with a spell. The two of HRM quickly dropped to their knees. Unfortunately, due to their unwavering focus on unveiling the mystery behind the undead, they failed to notice the miserable state of the crypt. While Gaia was murderously looking at the two of them, Jonah looked around to see the golden walls of the crypt stained with blood and gore. The air reeked of a nauseating rotten smell. "Well, despite the obvious sad state of the crypt, what have you two found?" Michael sighed inside and asked them. "You two better have some fucking results." Gaia was on the verge of breaking their arms for making the crypt a slaughterhouse. Sensing the anger in her tone, Dalar quickly opened his mouth, fearing that even a second of silence could result in their demise. "We may have found a way to make the undead army stronger, my lady." As soon as Gaia heard the words, her anger vanished into thin air. "All thanks to this, my lord." With a flick of his wrist, Dalar took out a Stormville mountain crystal. The pink crystal dimly glowed from within on Dalar's palm. Before Michael departed, he handed over a few prototypes that could enable his subordinates in the southern continent to use Arch Energy. These prototypes were obviously powered by the Arch Energy crystals. Dalar was one of the subordinates who received the device. At that time, when Michael built the device, he was only a 4-star inventor. But now, he could perfect the device thanks to his 5-star inventor level. The crystal mixed with human blood activates the energy veins in their bodies again, my lord. Michael was truly surprised. If what Dalar said was correct, he could power up his entire undead army. The reason why the undead couldn't use Arch Energy or Cultivate was that they lacked a functioning brain and the decayed energy veins in their bodies. The Alpha undead kinda replaced the undead's brain because the Alphas functioned as the brains by controlling them. Therefore, if Dalar could revive the energy veins in their bodies, Michael could theoretically make the undead cultivate. The latest underscores are on the website. But something told Michael it wouldn't be as easy as Dalar made it sound. Human blood? How much human blood are we talking about, and can you permanently revive their energy veins? If we get the blood of a powerful being, I have confidence we can permanently revive their energy veins, my lord. Unexpectedly, Dalar's confident tone surprised Michael. We still need more crystals and blood to determine how much blood we need, my lord. Jonah opened his mouth. Despite the fact Jonah was actually asking for human blood, he felt excited rather than disgusted or nauseated. We can give you blood and crystals. But I expect solid results, Gaia exclaimed. Also, I want the two of you to build a sick house for your slaughterings outside. We are on a huge island, for God's sake. Use your brains, or I will carve it out of you. She is right. Build something for yourself out there. I have big plans for this place. Michael nodded. How many undead do we have right now? 2,500, my lord. The angels harvested all the powerful netherils and hunted down the rest. Michi clenched his fist. Does that mean you can't summon netherils anymore? Gaia asked as Dalar hesitantly nodded. Shit, Gaia cussed and looked at Michael to know his thoughts on the matter. It's just a minor setback. We can still make more undead. Gaia did not need Michael to explain further as she had already grasped his plans. We don't need any more undead now. You two focus on building yourselves a workshop outside and find a way to make my army cultivate. After giving Dalar and Jonah their orders, Michael did not linger around in the crypt anymore. Instead, he teleported back to the dark forest and flew towards Bradford. Visits. For a better user experience ever since Ghost separated Bradford from Bredia and declared the barony as a kingdom, Bradford had gone through countless struggles. However, after Ghost's visit to Bredia, things took a turn for the better. Kingdom Bredia had released all the prisoners and stopped harassing the travelers and merchants. Although their king Ghost was not there with them to govern the kingdom, the elders and the Sunrise sect ruled the kingdom in his stead. As a result, Bradford finally began to thrive under the leadership of sect leader Claire and the talented elders who managed Bradford's various ministries. When Michael and Gaia saw River Town appear on the horizon, they stopped flying to bask in the sight's beauty. The setting sun painted the kingdom with its dimming golden light. Under its warm light, the farmlands surrounding the town glimmered like a jade stone blanket. The river crisscrossed throughout the town contained countless fishing boats and merchant ships. Even though the dawn was approaching, the river town didn't stop buzzing with crowds and carriages. Most of the carriages followed the main paved path and all shared a common destination, the Hades. The green lush mountain chain surrounding the town competed with the farmlands and the river to see who added extra charm to the town. Even from a distance, Michael could now see the buildings of the sect in the mountains, especially the majestic manor of sect leader Claire. Before stopping at Hades, Michael decided to stop by the sect so he could meet Olivia and reassure her that nothing had happened to him. Besides, it was time Gaia had returned to the sect. "So you told me Ricky and Olivia are in love. What are we gonna do about it?" asked Gaia while slowly flying towards the sect. "I think I should talk to Reginald about his daughter's future. Ricky is a good guy, and if Olivia married him, she'd always be close to us. That is advantageous to us. After all, we need Olivia to be our head of the majestic chain. Speaking of the majestic chain, don't you think it's better if we opened several branches across the continent? Now that most of the alchemists are dead and rotten, your market value would have gone through the roof. We can press this opportunity and make millions. You speak my mind, Gaia. The only problem is, can you refine pills and potions for all the branches?" Gaia questioned Michael. Not that she doubted his ability, but rather, she doubted he would have enough time to sit around and refine pills and potions instead of focusing on dismantling their enemies. "I already have a plan in mind, but fortunately, Michael had a solution for the alchemy problem. Since Michael upgraded the inventor level to 5-star, it was only a matter of time before he built a contraption that could brew pills and potions automatically without his intervention. After building it, Michael just had to teach Olivia how to operate the contraption, and it could pump out 100 pills and potions a day. However, he must find a suitable place to build such a contraption if he doesn't want rogue cultivators or powerful families to rob him blind." "Does it involve Olivia?" asked Gaia. "Yes. And also our allies. I think it's time we paid a visit to the Holy Church." Michi grinned. "Visits? For a better user experience, Holy Church?" Gaia was confused as she couldn't guess why he suddenly wanted to visit the Holy Church. As far as she was concerned, they had to stay as far as possible from the Holy Church. "Hitting two birds with one stone, Gaia," Michael said, smiling, and sped up towards the sect. "Look. Hey, look. It's Sister Elia. Brother Ghost." As soon as the disciples saw Michael and Gaia in the sky, the disciples roaming around the sect began to cause turmoil. Michael waved at them for a few moments before flying directly into Claire's manor. Right then, Claire was meeting with a few elders from the other sects and discussing merging the sects with the Sunrise sect. "You don't have to worry about independence, Elder Marcy. We will provide everything you need and let you govern yourself, except our elders will offer you guidance to make the sect greater." Claire sat with one leg atop another. By sitting like this, she looked extremely dominant. Coupled with her core strengthening stage level 8 cultivation, the aura she radiated made the elders absolutely submissive. "If you are in agreement with our terms, visit Broadriver and meet Elder Ella there. She will guide you through the process," Claire said. "It will be a pleasure to be a part of the Sunrise sect." Sect leader, a brown-haired man, stood up from his seat, bowed towards Claire, and shook her hand with absolute respect in his eyes. Instead of entering the hall to meet Claire, Michael and Gaia waited in the hallway, looking at Claire. The elders finally winded up the discussion a few minutes later and stood up to leave. Only then did they notice Michael and Gaia. When they saw the couple, the elders were startled. They might haven't recognized Gaia, but they recognized Michael almost instantly. "Young Master Ghost." "No, you Majesty Ghost." "Relax, ladies and gentlemen." Michael raised his hand with a calm smile as Claire's eyes went wide. "Elia." The sect leader almost dashed at Gaia, ignoring the elders. Fortunately, she controlled the urge to hug Gaia for a few moments. After exchanging a few pleasantries with the elders, Michael respectfully sent the elders away. "How is it going, Claire?" Gaia gently punched Claire in the shoulder, only to get hugged and squeezed by the blonde. "It's so nice to see. Where were you all this time?" Michael calmly rested his butt on the comfy sofa and waited for the maid to stop cowering in the corner and come to him. Having some alone time. Cultivating, adventuring, and murdering humans? Huh? Just kidding. Except for the last part, Gaia chuckled, making Claire frown. Kidding again. The latest __sodies are on _ website. Gaia patted Claire on the back and sat on the sofa with her. Finally, the young maid who was cowering in the corner decided to approach them. 3 avocado juice, Claire ordered. Yes, sect leader Claire. The young girl shivered, stuttering in fear. Who is she? It's a new rule of the sect. All the young people have to do some part-time jobs as a part of their studies. We believe it helped them sympathize with the commoners more, Claire explained. Ghost. Out of the blood, Olivia dashed into the manor with a pale face full of sweat beads. Told you it'll be fine. Claire was confused as Olivia dragged herself towards Michael and sat beside him. Soon, Ricky and Daniel entered the room. By the fear in Ricky's eyes, Michael could say that Olivia shared what happened on the ship with Ricky. As a result, he had to go through what happened during the alchemy competition from the beginning to the end when he got kidnapped by the pirates. Of course, Michael told them not to ask anything about what happened after the pirates kidnapped him. He had to wait to hear Sabrina's story before spreading another one. After everything was said and done about the alchemy competition, Gaia finally turned her gaze toward Olivia and Ricky. Olivia quickly realized the meaning of Gaia's sharp gaze while sitting beside Michael. Ricky, on the other hand, stood behind a sofa facing Claire and Michael with Daniel. So when were you two planning to tell us? Especially you, Ricky, Gaia said, raising her one brow in the shape of a sword. It's what? Cat got your tongue? Yet again, Claire was confused as she had no idea what was happening. She was too busy with the sect and Bradford business to notice the love tension between Olivia and Ricky. However, Daniel knew about their relationship, but he didn't get a chance to tell Ghost. Still, Daniel always advised Ricky to come clean with Ghost. These two are in love, Gaia broke the news to Claire. What? Claire couldn't help raising her voice in shock. It's okay, Ricky. You guys don't have to be scared. You did nothing wrong. I already dealt with Noah. What do you mean dealt with Noah? Claire's heart skipped a beat, thinking Ghost had killed Noah. Why don't you explain, Olivia? Michael looked at Olivia, wordlessly telling her to tell everything related to her marriage agreement with Noah. It took Olivia another 10 minutes to bring Claire up to speed. So much had happened, yet I knew nothing. I have to get some free time, Claire massaged her temples. But suddenly, Claire opened her eyes so wide Michael could see the sparkles in her eyes. Visit. For a better user experience, why don't we have a girls' night in Hades? After we deal with Lord Reginald. Speaking of Lord Reginald. Ricky, send a messenger to Lord Reginald and ask him I want to meet him tomorrow morning. Really? Ricky sounded relieved and almost excited. Yes, really. Now go. After Ricky, Daniel, and Olivia left the hall, Michael decided to talk to Claire about the state of Bradford and his future position in the sect. Sect leader Claire. I think it's time I graduate from the Sunrise sect and let the Sunrise sect outshine me. Claire was surprised for a moment, but soon she just sighed. I understand you. I mean, you must be stronger than your sect leader. Way stronger, Gaia exclaimed. So what's the plan? Asked Claire. Between us, I'll always be the guardian of the sect. But to the outside world, I graduated from the sect. I will be nothing more than an old student. Claire listened to Michael's plan without uttering a word as he continued. As for the matter of Bradford, I'd prefer if you merge the kingdom with a sect. It was not Michael's idea to acquire the kingdom into the sect but Gaia's. No sect had ever acquired a kingdom. Hence, if the Sunrise sect took over Bradford, it'd be the first time in history. Think about it, Claire. After taking over the kingdom, all the citizens of Bradford would be our disciples. You will have an army to defend the sect in the future against your foes. Let's be real. Countless people might be conspiring to bring us down as we speak. So we need an army, Gaia exclaimed. Besides, it'd be less complicated to rule Bradford as the Sunrise sect rather than a separate place. We got your back, Claire, as always. Gaia wrapped her hand around Claire and reassured her. Take your time, sect leader Claire. I know it's a big decision. But trust me, it's better this way. Well, I have to talk to the elders, but are you sure you want to do this? By doing this, you're basically throwing away being the king. Michael, on the other hand, just shrugged. I don't like being the king anyway. It's not my style. Plus, being called your majesty feels wrong and weird. Really? That's your reason? Claire sighed. You basically went to war with King Bredia and killed Princess Catherine. Both of them were being such a bitch at that time. Just take your time and let us know your decisions, sect leader Claire. Visits. For a better user experience, please call me Claire from now on. Just like your majesty ghost, sect leader Claire feels wrong and weird. Claire giggled as Michael stood up to leave the manor. Fair, Michael nodded. And Gaia, girls' night. Do not miss it. I still haven't forgotten you didn't throw a gala for getting engaged. The last time we tried to do that, a bunch of morons ambushed us and blew Hades to hell. So you sure you still want a gala? I am planning this time, and no offense, ghost, I'll be open for only girls, Claire said to Michael. Whatever you do, do it before the end of next week. I am planning to go to our aqua auction? Claire asked. Yeah. I heard I can get some cool stuff there. Before traveling to R, however, Michael planned to deal with the pirates in the southern continent and the status of Gisel in the ongoing war between Pririd and Myril. The last time Michael heard, General Quintus was viciously attacking Pririd and slowly marching towards Pririd's capital. He assigned Cain to deal with the problem, and it was time to check on Vidora. After leaving Claire's manor, Michael and Gaia went to see their herbal garden. The herbal garden was concealed with lush green veins and giant trees. If one looked at the mountain from the distance, they wouldn't see the glass dome covering the herbal garden but the lush green mountain. As they walked towards the herbal garden, breathing in the aromatic air, they felt calm and soothed to their soul. The sound of birds chirping and crickets chittering in the herbal garden was almost music to their ears. It feels like yesterday I planted my first herb seed. 1,000 years, blue putna flower, Michael said to Gaia. Time does fly fast, Gaia nodded. After walking food for a few more minutes, they reached the colossal glass dome surrounding the herbal garden. At that moment, the herbal garden was almost half the size of a football stadium. But the crowded herbs and vegetation made the garden somewhat look smaller. As soon as they entered the garden, a few youngsters welcomed them with a bow. How is the harvesting going? Michael asked the blonde-haired youngster. Since he was one of the senior disciples in the sect, he didn't act like the others when he saw Michael. Pretty great, Brother Ghost. We just brought some compost from Royal Land and I heard Elder Reiner has ordered some rare herbs from the Phoenix auction house. Cool. Continue your work. I just come here to pick some herbs. Michael and Gaia walked away from the youngsters, leaving them to their work. I still can't believe that tiny human is in seclusion. Do you think she is some kind of genius? Gaia asked while Michael was plucking some red orchids with care. If she continues to cultivate at this rate, she would be considered as one. After all, Cindy consumed pills and potions worth millions. That could make even the mediocre cultivator a genius, yet here you are plucking orchids to make her another potion, Gaia chuckled. It will help her reach the core formation stage quicker. I miss having her around. What about me? Do you miss having me around? Gaia asked in a seductive tone and moved closer to him. Visits. For a better user experience, would you believe me if I said no? Those were the last words that escaped Michael's mouth before Gaia locked her lips with his. The next day Michael woke up early and went straight to Hades before sunrise. He had a whole of things planned ahead and decided to start the day with some strongly brewed coffee. After the ambush, Michael hired Lord Malin to provide 24/7 security to Raylene, Hades, and the Majestic. Hence, when Michael and Gaia arrived at Hades, they were greeted by two core strengthening stage guards. Lord Ghost, Lady Elia. The two guards flanking the door bowed their heads as Michael and Gaia entered the Hades. The newly renovated Hades looked glamorous and fancier than before. Although she hated Fover, the dwarf, she couldn't help admiring his skills. Basically, it felt like she had entered another world. God, I missed the smell of this place. Gaia took a long whiff of the air and looked around the restaurant for a feia moments before walking towards the table designated for them. Oh my God! As they sat down, Gloria, who walked out from the back door, almost jumped and gasped in shock. Master Ghost, Miss Elia. Michael was surprised too, as he didn't expect Gloria to be here this early. You're early, Gaia exclaimed. I always come early to see everything's in perfect condition, Miss Elia. It's not much but always helps to keep the flow running smoothly. Michael appreciated Gloria's hard work. There was a reason why Michael paid a high wager to Gloria. I heard you're planning to open up another branch in Royal Land. Come on, take a seat. Gaia gestured at Gloria to take the seat before them. At first, Gloria felt hesitant even to look them in the eyes. But after spending time with Ghost and Elia, she had grown to respect them more rather than fear them. So instead of wasting their time being reluctant, Gloria took the seat. Tell me about this place, Gaia asked. Well, it's located in the Noble District, close to the garrison. Nice safe spot, big 3-story building and newly built. Sounds great. Any problem buying it? The owner of the building is King Kramer's cousin. He is playing a little hardball. Gaia creased her brows because she sensed a reluctance in Gloria's voice as though she was hiding something. Gloria, after hearing the deep tone, Gloria just sighed. It's just that guy's look, Miss Elia. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right the way he looks at Lady Raylene. I don't think he is asking for coins. Arg, I hate this. Michael scratched the back of his head. The last thing Michael wanted was to make an enemy out of King Kramer. Unlike King Bredia, King Kramer was an influential figure and the king of the most powerful kingdom in Elon. The latest underscores are on _ website. Did you look for another place? Asked Gaia, hiding the anger from showing on her face. Yes, but they are not as good as this. That's why we've been thinking of opening a branch somewhere else. That's a good idea. It's troublesome to deal with these spoiled young masters, Gaia sighed. Although Gloria was slightly surprised, she felt relieved. As you wish, Miss Elia. While talking, Michael saw Raylene walking through the door and was surprised to see Ghost and Elia. Here she is, my favorite cook in the whole world, Miss Elia. Raylene dashed at Gaia and hugged her tightly. Core Formation Level 7. Michael admired Raylene's cultivation level. It was apparent to him that despite her busy schedule, Raylene was spending time cultivating as he instructed her. It's so nice to see you. Where have you been? Gaia made Raylene sit beside her and ruffled Raylene's golden hair. You are glowing, Gaia commented on Raylene's silky smooth, glowy skin, making Raylene blush. How about we all have a freshly brewed coffee and talk? Michael felt bad to interrupt their reunion, but he wanted that coffee to kick his brain to plan his next moves. Give me 10 minutes, and I'll bring coffee with Miss Elia's favorite cookies. You are such a treasure. Gaia pinched Raylene's cheek to the point it turned red as a ripe tomato. You can go ahead with your work, Gloria. Michael sent away Gloria so he could start planning with Gaia. You are not going to kill him, huh? Michael raised his brows, showing his disbelief. Of course. My word is my bond. Michael chuckled, seeing her placing her 3 fingers on the chest. But that doesn't mean he won't die. Arias and Bradford, right? Michael nodded. When Michael met Aria last time, he ordered her to escort her brothers to Bradford and contact Sadie to get the twins into the military. Thanks to Sadie, Titus and Optimus had become the soldiers of Bradford's army and waiting for the Dark Lord's further instructions. It's time she does a little reconnaissance in Royal Land. What are you planning? Michael asked curiously. Visits. For a better user experience, a pervert fucker like him can't live without gala and parties. I bet he's having a party this weekend, so we crash the party, Gaia shrugged. We can't. He dies, and we might become suspects. Not if he goes nuts and kills himself. Gaia grinned devilishly as Michael understood her plan. If someone killed that young master, the Guardians or the King's Guards might make the connection to Michael. However, no one would bat an eye if he went nuts and killed himself, as Gaia said. Fortunately, Michael happened to know how to make him go crazy. Where is Eladir? He should have gotten out by now. Gaia watched the rising sun through the window and wondered. While we are waiting for him, tell me where I get these things. Michael quickly scribbled a list of things on parchment and slid it towards Gaia: black ivory, clean-cut sapphires, meridian or Ritzbury oil. Gaia read through the list of items and looked confused after reaching the list's end. What the heck are you planning to do with all these items? You can't get these items in a common auction house. Most of these items are pretty rare. I know someone who could get these items, but I don't think you'll like him. Who? Michael asked. Lord fricking Julius of Phoenix Island. Cool. However, Michael surprised Gaia with his calm tone. Well, send Daniel to meet Julius on my behalf. Wow, I thought you will be mad or what, throw a tantrum. Look, I am a fusion stage cultivator now. Holding a grudge against a puny core formation or core strengthening man is beneath me. Honestly, I don't think Julius is holding what I did against him either. Let's just send Daniel and get these items from him. When did you become such a saint? Gaia couldn't help rolling her eyes as she kinda expected Ghost to go to Phoenix Island and decimate everyone in his path, or at least kick Julius, but after all, Lord Julius tried to kill Ghost when he killed the group of youngsters who tried to kill Gaia. Yet, he proved her wrong by forgiving Julius. But I get to kill him if he still acts like a bitch. Visits? For the best no_vel_read_ng experience, fair enough. Unlike before, Michael did not have to constrain himself from making enemies. On the contrary, it was the people of Elon who shouldn't make an enemy out of Michael. As a fusion stage cultivator, Michael had the power to wipe out many noble families and sects from the face of the world. At this point in time, only peak-level fusion stage or cultivators above them could stop Michael. As they were talking, another figure entered through the door, and this time, it was Eladir. He strolled toward Michael and Gaia like he owns the place with his head held high. Look who decided to show up. Since they were in Hades, instead of bowing, Eladir just nodded and took the seat before them. Where is Nightmare? As soon as Eladir settled down, Michaela asked him about Nightmare. The moment we got out, he went to meet you in the sect. I bet he is with Claire right now, Gaia chuckled, imagining Nightmare in a bathtub full of bubbles. Eladir. Michael nodded at Eladir as the latter quickly drew a rune on the table. The dark red rune resembling a hawk glistened for a moment before vanishing into thin air. Now no one will be able to hear us. Good. So now he is here, tell us what's our next move is? Gaia asked Michael. To be honest, Gaia felt overwhelmed by the problems in front of them. Until now, their enemies had the advantage of being stronger than them. That had changed now. Therefore, Gaia wanted to tackle the problems head-on. First things first, we need to finish what we started. We are going to Gisel and equip Big Bertha with mortar. Man, I need to see this mortar you two constantly nag about in action. Has they finished forging it, my lord? Maxine will meet us at Corey's Island with the mortar. After we finish that, I am planning to visit Aiden. We can't delay making the southern continent our strong base anymore. On one hand, we have the mysterious clan of vampires who seem to be far more powerful than we imagined. On the other hand, we have Skyhall and Guardians to deal with. So I think we will all agree when I say we turn the tables to our favor and conquer the southern continent once and for all. Gaia bobbed her head up and down excitedly. But before we do that, we have an ally to make. Michael paused for a moment. The Holy Church. I am going to make a huge sum of $5 million donation in my name against the Church's war against the Dark Lord. Ooh, I get it. After deeply thinking for a few moments, Gaia understood Michael's plan. Don't tell me you don't get him. You are thousands of years old. Just use your old brain and figure it out. Why does Ghost need the Holy Church as his ally? The latest underscores are on website. After seeing the amused look on Michael's face, Eladir really started to pick his brain to understand his plan. As far as Eladir heard from Michael, the Holy Church was hunting the Dark Lord in full force. Hence, he couldn't help wondering why Michael needed to meet the powerful organization that hunts him. After planning his next moves, Michael waited for Reginald to arrive at Hades with Gaia. As time flew, more and more nobles entered the Hades, and the restaurant began to get busy. Not even an hour passed opening the restaurant, yet all the tables got filled with nobles. A few nobles looked surprised to see Michael, but they didn't bother Michael. Finally, after the sun ultimately rose out of the horizon, Reginald entered the Hades with Olivia and Ricky. Lord Reginald. Michael stood up to firmly shake Reginald's hand. Gaia also shook his hand before everyone settled into their places. We will have 3 specials, please. Michael ordered the food on behalf of Reginald. Master Ghost, I heard about what happened in the alchemy competition. Scary business. Thank you so much for taking care of her. Reginald showed his gratitude to Michael with a nod. Lord Reginald, I asked you here to talk about Olivia. Normally, I wouldn't poke my head into others' business. But she is not an outsider. She is my student, and as a teacher, I can't ignore her well-being. Hear him out. Gaia cut Reginald short when he was about to interject Michael. I don't like to beat around the bush. These 2 are in love, Michael pointed at Olivia and Ricky, and I want you to marry them. If you are hesitating because he is not noble and not strong enough, this will reassure you. Reginald noticed Michael taking a parchment from his space ring and writing something on it. This contains my word to you. In 2 years, Ricky will reach the soul refining stage. In 2 months, he will be appointed as one of the elders of the Sunrise sect and no longer be just a henchman. Everyone except Gaia was startled. Teacher, Olivia stuttered as Michael slid the parchment towards Reginald. He took it in his hand and glanced at Michael's words. I think we will both agree that at the soul refining stage, Ricky can protect Olivia without anyone's help, Michael calmly said, and as an elder of the Sunrise sect, he will be influential and have a status higher than many nobles in Elon, Gaia exclaimed after Michael. Reginald was simply speechless while Ricky felt like he was about to faint. You have to think of your daughter, Lord Reginald. She asked for your permission because she loves and respects you. It's time you return the same gesture to her. If she marries another guy, she will just be a wife. But Ricky will treat her like a queen. He is a nice guy. Ricky's eyes watered, hearing Ghost vouch for him. On the other hand, Reginald just stared at Ricky and Olivia before sighing. Do you really think he can reach the soul refining stage within 2 years? The latest underscores are on website. I don't think. I know, you have my word. After getting assurance from Michael, he couldn't reject Ricky anymore. Besides, Noah Winston had called off the marriage, so Reginald had no choice but to accept the deal from Ghost. And Ricky, while Reginald was pondering, Gaia turned her gaze towards Ricky. She is the only girl in your life. The only tears I want to see in the green eyes are happy tears. Otherwise, I'll break your bones, make a soup and feed it to you, Gaia threatened Ricky, and by the coldness of the tone, Reginald could tell she wasn't kidding. What's your answer, Lord Reginald? Reginald looked at Ricky and Olivia yet again and heaved a long breath of sigh. I have no objection to the marriage between them. We shall marry them after he reaches the soul refining stage. Not that Reginald wanted Ricky to fail, but he truly wanted someone powerful to protect his daughter. That was the main reason why Reginald rejected Ricky. However, now that Ghost reassured him, he truly believed Ricky could reach the soul refining stage. As far as Reginald was concerned, Ghost could do anything if he set his mind to it. As soon as Reginald agreed, Olivia lunged at her father and hugged him tightly. Meanwhile, Ricky almost grabbed Michael's feet, but Michael quickly stopped him with a gust of wind. You and Daniel find some associates for you. From tomorrow, the 2 of you will start cultivating like never before. Elia will give you a training regiment you must follow. Ricky bopped his head up and down. Although Michael could provide Daniel and Ricky with pills and potions, without hard work and a strict training regiment, they wouldn't reach the soul refinement stage in a million years. Since Michael gave Reginald his word, he gave the responsibility of training them to Gaia. After sending the happy love birds away, Michael started to talk about the future of the Majestic. Lord Reginald, we have a unique opportunity in our hands. You know what that is, right? Reginald nodded. Almost 80% of the alchemists in Elon and Azer are wiped out. So we have a huge vacuum of alchemists. Don't you think it's time to hike the price up a bit? Asked Gaia. Definitely. Your pills and potions already have a huge demand. In fact, the demand is way higher than the products in our hands. I can get our team to assess the market and get a rough idea of how high we should raise the prices. That's good. But I am also thinking of expanding the majestic Lord Reginald. Between you and me, I am planning to make Olivia the head of my majestic chains. What do you think of Olivia getting a share in profits? Reginald became speechless. Even 10% in the profits would settle Olivia for life. In fact, she would surpass Reginald's net worth in a couple of years if Ghost did what he said. As a merchant, he could tell how much of a golden opportunity this was. Visits. For the best no_underscoring experience, it'd be wonderful, Master Ghost. I thought so too. Can you do me a favor, Lord Reginald? Of course, Master Ghost. Reginald was too excited as he had already started to imagine Olivia as the head of Ghost's majestic chain. I need good places to open up branches. Can you get your team to find me some great places and their prices? Consider it done. I'll have the list brought to you in a few days. Reginald already had a few places in mind. Thus, finding Ghost a few suitable places wouldn't be difficult. Besides, Reginald would provide his full help to Ghost to build a majestic chain so Olivia could have a bright future and become a renowned leader instead of being an alchemy teacher in Aragoth. After everything was said and done, Reginald left Hades, leaving Ghost and Gaia behind. The duo did not linger around in Hades but went straight back to the sect. At the time they returned to the sect, Michael was hit by a heavy bag, and the bad was none other than Nightmare, who shrunk his size like a fully grown German shepherd. Nightmare, buddy. The dragon frantically licked Michael's face and showered him with kisses. It feels like too long. Nightmare hugged both Gaia and Michael in the midair. The trio slowly descended onto Claire's mansion and went inside to see Claire. Ghost. Claire welcomed Michael and Gaia with a grin. Take your seats. After they all settled down, Claire handed over 2 parchments to Michael. One is the document for merging the kingdom with the sect, and the other is your graduation confirmation. Since you will be busy getting ready to go to R, I took the liberty to draft them as fast as I could. Gaia took a short glance at the 2 documents before putting them inside her space ring. Also, I sent some disciples to find you 2 a good place to build your home. By the time you come back from R, we'll have a great place. Yes, but don't let anyone start building. I want to design every brick of our castle. Castle? Claire raised her brows in surprise. Of course, it will be a castle. Not just any castle. It will make the existing castles in Elon look like shabby houses. The latest _sodies are on _this website. But don't you think it's overkill to build a castle for just the 2 of you? Claire turned her gaze to Michael, but he remained silent. It was Gaia's dream to design her own castle, and Michael had no plans to stop her from doing so. No matter how much coins it would cost him, he would let Gaia build them their own castle. Plus, Michael loved the idea of living in a castle without all the responsibilities of a king. Normally I disagree with her, but I love the idea of living in a castle. I have some cool ideas for my room, Nightmare excitedly laughed. Hearing the 2 of them, Claire could only sigh. There is no stopping you, is there? Nope, Gaia shook her head. Trust me, Claire. You're gonna be mind blown. We just need to find some best architects in R. So, have you thought of how you will get to R? You can't fly there as it would take months. If I were you, I'd look for a portal. Speaking of a portal, do you think the Holy Church would have one? Michael suddenly asked. I think so. The Holy Church has a branch in Royal Land, and I heard they have a portal there. Claire said, that's great. I have to meet His Holiness anyways. Thank you, Claire. Claire wanted to ask why Michael suddenly wanted to meet with His Holiness, but she refrained from sticking her nose into his business. Why don't you stay here and have that girls' night today? I'll go meet His Holiness, Michael said to Gaia as she quickly creased her brows. Why can't I come with you? Because you should spend some time with them. Michael gently squeezed her hand, looking into her eyes. It took Gay a second to realize his true reason. You know what, that's a great idea. What about me? Asked Nightmare. Visits. For the best no understanding experience, I'll take you with me. Michael rubbed Nightmare's head and agreed to bring him to the church. It had been a couple of months since Michael visited Royal Land. By the time he flew to Royal Land atop Nightmare, the sun was on the top, scorching everyone under with its heat. Just like before, Michael had to land at the city gates and pay a toll to enter the city. Nightmare shrunk his size smaller to sit atop Michael's shoulder. After paying 20 gold coins, Michael entered the main capital of Royal Land. As usual, the city looked stripped out of a fantasy anime or a fantasy drama, with all the people wearing fancy clothes and members of other races. Many young girls and young boys had their own exotic pets with them, but none had a dragon. A forest dragon was still a rare dragon breed, after all. Hence, Michael drew some glances at him while walking toward the town square. According to Claire, the road leading to the Holy Church branched out from the town square. Look at all those guards. While Michael was on his way to the town square, Nightmare pointed him to the fully armor-plated soldiers patrolling the streets. The soldiers wore pale blue armor with the crest of Royal Land on their chest. However, several groups adorned dark brown armor instead of blue. Michael did not recognize them. Who are they? The Holy Church soldiers, who were called Holy Guards, would be in shining white armor. At the same time, the Guardians always wore golden armor or appeared without any armor but just their crest. He hadn't seen any group of guards in dark brown armor. Besides, they were extremely strong. Each guard wearing the muddy brown armor was at the core strengthening stage. Because of the helmet, Michael couldn't see their faces or identify their race. Ignoring the patrolling soldiers, Michael continued to walk toward the town square. Is that Ghost? It's him. Whoa, it's really him. He is better looking than I imagined. He does have a dragon for a pet. Cool. Several nobles who recognized Michi by his trademark black robes began to murmur among them. At this time, almost half of Elon knew Michael's face and the entire continent knew his name. If it wasn't for the no-fly inside the city gates rule, Michael could have easily detected the church and quickly reached the place. But, since it wasn't the case, Michael had to ignore their gazes and walk. Aren't we going to visit King Kramer? Nightmare asked suddenly. Visits? For the best no_vil__skungy experience, we will. But after we meet with His Holiness, Michael wanted to let everyone in Elon know he had reached the fusion stage. It would definitely bring him attention and respect from throughout the continent. He wouldn't have to pay to enter the city at that time, but the king would come in person to receive him. When he arrived at the buzzing town square, Michael was greeted by a man in white robes standing atop a stack of crates and shouting out loud. The vampires are walking among us. The Dark Lord is walking among us. The gods are walking among us. The man shouted as loud as he could. Instead of walking past him, Michael leaned on a brick wall and listened to him with a few others. These are testing times for mortals. We have deceivers leading us into chaos. The Guardians are conspiring against humanity. They allowed the vampires to massacre our brothers and sisters. We are not cattle to be slaughtered. Michael was amused by the man's words. Moreover, the man got quite a crowd listening to him. Usually, the people of Royal Land would ignore people like him, but now, they actually stood under the scorching sun to listen to the man. The hate against the Guardians had become stronger than ever. It was evident to Michael. As the sole orchestrator of the events that ruined Guardian Guild's reputation, Michael was proud and pleased. We have deviated from the Great One and Two. Now we are reaping what we sow. It is time to return to our roots, people. The Holy Church is our only way to redemption. The man looked at the sky, pausing his speech for a few moments. It's not too late. Surrender your souls to His Holiness, as He is the Savior of the mortal kind. So the Holy Church is going all out to increase their support, huh? Michael mumbled inside. Instead of continuing to listen to the man, Michael resumed his journey. Considering the people were too focused on the shouting man, they failed to notice Michael. As Michael walked out of the crowd, he saw a deserted lane flanked by yellow maple trees on each side. The yellow-leaved blanketed the pavement, making the path look like it was paved with gold. The wooden board had the words Holy Church engraved on it along with an arrow pointing down the path. Michael and Nightmare took the path in silence, listening to the ruffling leaves and chirping of birds. It was soothing to them. Everything was still and silent until Michael sensed a powerful being approaching him. He slowly looked upwards to see a golden-haired man adorned in radiant white armor descending from the sky. If the word knight had an embodiment, it would be the man before Michael. With the heavy armor clanking, the man landed in front of Michael. His golden eyes stared at Michael from top to bottom. A soul-refining stage cultivator, Michael sensed the man's cultivation stage and wondered why a warrior like him appeared here. "Ghost, I presume," the golden-haired warrior spoke with his steel-like voice. The man's face was void of any friendliness. In fact, he stared at Michael coldly as though Michael had done something to him. The latest episodes are on website. One and only. I am hoping to see His Holiness. However, after Michael uttered these words with full of respect, a glint of surprise emerged in the man's gold eyes. "The reason? To get His Holiness' blessings and extend my support to the Holy Church against the vampires. Follow me." The man said nothing but these words before gesturing at Michael to follow him. The both of them took off from the ground, and as soon as Michael flew through the maple tree canopy, he noticed a Gothic-style palace in the distance surrounded by moat and alluring sunflower beds. Michael could see the countless arrays and runes around the palace thanks to his X-ray vision. As Michael flew closer and closer, he noticed the enormous statues of warriors decorated the bridge leading to the palace. This castle had clearly stood the test of time, and despite his age, the palace looked sturdy and pristine. This way, the man descended to the ground, landing on the marble floor facing the giant golden door. As though the door had sensed them, it creaked open slowly to reveal the interior. When the door opened, Michael was welcomed by massive braziers hanging from each of the 6 travertine columns that lit up the lower levels of the throne hall and blanketed everything in a warm glow. The countless gems on the rounded ceiling danced in the flickering light while statuettes and memorials looked down upon this opulent hall's marble floor. Broad, stained glass windows depicting ancient legends were concealed by veils colored the same ebony as the banners. The curtains had been adorned with jewels and fine patterns. An ebony rug split the entire hall in half, matching the thinner ones on either side of the hall, while burgee banners with golden fringes decorated the walls. Between each banner stood several tapers of various sizes. All but a few have been lit, illuminating the 2 giant statues of a man and a woman. Under these 2 statues were 2 striking thrones of iron sitting at the center of a small platform and adjoined by 5 similar, but smaller seats for visiting dignitaries. The thrones were covered in Byzantine carvings, and a lavish lantern was fixed on each of the slim ears. The comfortable pillows were radiant white ebony, and these too have been adorned with embellished quilting. Those seeking the wisdom of the holiness could do so on the plethora of extravagant and comfortable maple benches facing the center of the hall. Those of higher standing could instead take seats in the elegant balustrades overlooking the hall. Entering the hall, Michael noticed a few nobles praying to the 2 giant statues on their knees. Instead of following the man, Michael went to his knees and closed his eyes just like the nobles. The sudden gesture Michael surprised the man yet again. While pretending to pray to the giant statues, Michael scanned the hall. Suddenly, he sensed a body-refining stage cultivator entering the hall surrounded by soul-refining stage warriors. Michael slowly opened his eyes to see a man in his late 70s with pure white hair standing before the throne. The old man wore radiant white robes that sparkled in the light as he looked to be the embodiment of kindness. There was no doubt in Michael's mind. The old man was the holiness of the Holy Church in the royal land. May the Great One and Two be with you always. His Holiness raised the golden staff in his hand as a warm wave of energy brushed past Michael. His Holiness will now see you, the golden-haired man said to Michael. Michael stood up and slowly approached the older man on the throne with a nod. Please take the seat, child. The old man gestured at Michael to sit in the chair beside the throne. Your Holiness, please give us your blessing. Michael and Nightmare lowered their heads. May the Great One and Two be with you always. His Holiness blessed Michael and Nightmare with a gentle smile. The latest episodes are on website. It's a pleasure to see a gifted young man like you bow your heads towards the Holy Church, His Holiness softly spoke. I may not be a model citizen, Your Holiness, but I always put my faith in the Great One and Two. They guide me, and after the recent events, my faith is stronger than ever before. Nightmare was truly surprised by the extent of Michael's acting skills. He had to learn about the Great One and Two from Gaia, yet he talked like a die-hard worshipper of the two gods. The Great One and Two protect those who keep them in their hearts, child. Nothing can harm you as long as you have them in your heart. Now feel free to speak your mind, child. This is a safe zone. I want to support the Holy Church, Your Holiness. I don't trust the Guardians, and I firmly believe only the Holy Church can put a stop to all this madness. His Holiness just gently smiled hearing Michael's words. It is not madness but consequences of our sins, my child. We have lost our ways. Temporary pleasures and false gods have blinded everyone's faith. That's why I want to do my part, offering what I can to the Holy Church, Your Holiness. Your true faith is what we need, child. But we are living in difficult times, facing evil every day. To fight those evil and keep the light burning bright, we need everyone's help. Brianna, His Holiness closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened his eyes, a bald woman slowly descended before them. Your Holiness, the bald woman kindly smiled and bowed towards His Holiness. Believer Brianna is responsible for handling donations. You can make your donation no matter the amount to her. Michael nodded and took out a space ring from the system storage. Then he handed over the space ring to Brianna. May the Great One and Two bless your kind heart. Brianna kindly smiled, taking the space ring from Michael. But soon, a glint of surprise emerged in her eyes. I also want to offer a batch of healing potions to the Holy Church every month, Believer Brianna. But unfortunately, I can't make the donations in person. So is it okay if someone else made the donation on my behalf? Brianna was still in shock because no one in Elon had ever donated 5 million gold coins in one go. Even some noble families would give less to the Holy Church, yet a youngster like him made a donation of 5 million really touched her heart. Of course, you are a true believer, my child. Only if we had more believers like you. Nightmare almost coughed up blood. Although Nightmare had no idea why he was making donations to the Holy Church, one thing was for sure, Ghost was the last guy who would believe in the Holy Church. The latest underscores are on website. Just as Michael planned, after making such huge donations, the Royal News printed his meeting with His Holiness on the front page. The entire continent now knew about Ghost's friendly relationship with the Holy Church, which became another ally of Ghost. Since he made a 5 million donation and offered to send Holy Guards a batch of healing potions free every month, His Holiness gladly gave access to the teleportation portal. Instead of walking into the portal right away, Michael went to meet King Kramer. He would have walked to the castle if he hadn't reached the fusion stage. Since Michel flew to the castle and landed right before the castle gates. As soon as his feet touched the ground, several armed guards rushed to the gates, thinking they were under attack. Relax, I am here to meet King Kramer. The soldiers did not loosen their bodies. Tell your king Ghost wants to see him. Ghost? The soldiers were startled. Although they hadn't seen him in person, they had all heard about him. I thought a fusion stage cultivator would receive a different welcome. Michael informed the soldiers about his cultivation stage in an indirect manner. It took the soldiers a few moments to realize the graveness of the matter. But before one of them could run back into the castle, a group of fancily dressed people approached the gates surrounded by several more armed soldiers. The one who led the group was a middle-aged man with wavy shoulder-length silvery hair. He was neither too short nor too tall but rather had an average build. His thick mustache perfectly complemented his clean-shaven rosy skin. Just by looking at the silver robes and the golden crown on his face, Michael could tell who this man was. King Kramer. Michael greeted the king with a smile. Sorry to drop by unannounced. I was in the neighborhood and it'd be rude if I didn't come to meet you, King Ghost. Unexpectedly, it was the silvery-haired woman who greeted Michael instead of the king. To a man who saw countless heaven-defying beauties from both this universe and other universes, Michael wasn't startled by the Queen's charm. Queen Imad, I presume. The guards quickly opened the steel gate between the two parties as Michael stepped forward. Sorry for all this, King Ghost. Oh please, call me Ghost. I insist. The latest underscores are on _the website. As you wish. King Kramer finally opened his mouth and extended his arm to shake Michael's. Honor to finally meet you, King Kramer. Michael firmly shook his hand. Please come inside. The Queen welcomed Michael with a bright grin on her face. You must be the only king who doesn't like to be called king and surrounded by royal guards. The Queen melodiously laughed while leading Michael to the majestic castle. What's the point of being a fusion stage cultivator when I have to surround myself with weaker guards? Now that the Queen and King finally heard these words from his mouth, their legs stopped walking. You reached the fusion stage? An old man carrying a thick book and a staff asked Michi in utter surprise. It's hard to believe, right? Not only the old man but even the King and Queen also stared at Michael with clear doubt in their eyes. I am pretty sure you have a mirror device to check the cultivation stage. It's okay, Ghost. We believe you. The Queen brushed it off but Michael shook his head. I like to let everyone know that I reached fusion stage, Queen Amat, Michael whispered to her. Still, the others heard him. But can I ask why? Isn't it advantageous to keep your cultivation stage hidden? Apparently, the Queen was more talkative than the King. But that didn't mean the King was weak. In fact, King Kramer was at core strengthening stage level 10 while Queen Amat was just at core formation stage level 3. Visits. For a better user experience, what's the point of reaching fusion stage if you can't show it off, Queen Amat? Plus, I don't have to deal with the arrogant young masters and young Mrs. Riddling Elon, Michael chuckled. His words just mesmerized the Queen and everyone around. He didn't sound arrogant but domineering. Coupled with his young age, it was too hard for them to believe Ghost was a fusion stage cultivator. Makes sense, King Kramer nodded as they finally reached the enormous throne hall. Bring the mirrors, King Kramer ordered the old man and waited for the servants to set up the sofas. After everything was said and done, Michael took the seat facing Queen Amat and King Kramer. Being a fusion stage cultivator felt great to Michael. Normally, one would have to wait for an audience with King Kramer, but now, he entered the castle escorted by the King and Queen themselves. He used to feel slightly jealous of Layla and Elder Kane but not anymore. Quickly a maid approached Michael, slightly shivering from top to bottom. I will take any kind of fruit juice, please. No booze, thank you. Despite Michael's status and cultivation, he treated the maid with dignity. It was such a small gesture but his words to the maid surprised Queen Amat. So what's the true purpose of your visit here, Ghost? King Kramer asked after the maid left the throne hall. He also dismissed the soldiers except for a few royal guards who stood in the corner, watching the King and Queen. I came to meet His Holiness and dropped by to meet the two of you because I was kinda hoping I could buy a piece of land in your kingdom. Piece of land? That's wonderful. Royal land would be honored to gift you, Queen Amat said with an ear-to-ear grin as the King nodded. Freebies break friendships, Queen Amat. So I was thinking I could name either of you as a shareholder of the majestic branch I will open here in Royal Land. Is it possible? Sorry to be blunt, but I was actually thinking it. In fact, I have the same proposal to the King of Draddle and Kethan too. Really? Queen Amat's voice trailed off as she looked to be in deep thought about Michael's offer. Of course, Michael knew they would accept it, but they had to pretend to be thinking so they wouldn't look like power-hungry wolves. Regardless of their status as king and queen, they would still be wanting to be a part of something big as majestic. Because Ghost was a fusion stage cultivator and being an ally to a fusion stage cultivator came with countless benefits. From Michael's perspective, he needed allies. By making them King Kramer and Queen Amat shareholders in the Majestic, they would not only become his allies but the Majestic would get the protection of the entire kingdom. Once the King and Queen taste the benefits, Michael could reap more from the two of them. I mean, just think about it. An outsider comes to your home and runs things without giving you any sort of tribute. It's not fair, right? That's why I want the two of you to be a part of Majestic in Royal Land visits. For the best no_underscore experience while they were talking, the old man who went to bring the mirror finally arrived at the hall with several other nobles. They all had one thing in common: curiosity. The last time Michael saw the device was when he competed in the Elon tournament. Of course, the mirror before him looked a little smaller and lightweight. It was apparent to Michael that the Guardians had made some modifications to the device. One single shout from the dormant Hydra, and they still hadn't recovered their ability to perceive someone else's cultivation level. Let's do this, shall we? Michael rubbed his palms together excitedly before walking toward the mirror. We made some changes to the contraption, Master Ghost. This one is specifically designed to check whether someone is at the fusion stage or not. I hope you don't mind it. Why would I? Michael just shrugged, placing his palm on the mirror. As soon as his palm touched the mirror, he felt a suction force and a warm sensation throughout his body. The mirror remained unmoving for a second before slowly starting to radiate a bright purple light from within. Fusion stage, the old man mumbled under his breath. How am I doing? Michael winked at the nobles as they stared at Michael in pure amazement. Michael was sure they would spread the news of his cultivation stage throughout the continent by tomorrow morning. We should agree, don't you think? Queen Amat whispered to King Kramer. It's always better to have allies. King Kramer nodded, agreeing with Queen Amat's words. Now that Michael had finished proving himself, he returned to his seat. Well, King Kramer and Queen Amat, Michael looked at them for their answer, we will definitely consider it Ghost. There are some rules and regulations for us to own something. What about we give us your answer, just say, tomorrow night? Queen Amat asked, just as Michael predicted. Cool. The latest underscore sodies are on underscore website. At the moment, Michael was in his Dark Lord form in the Dark Forest. Azazel was cleaning the room while Nightmare and Vidora played with each other on the bed. My lord, as Michael was correcting his robes before the mirror, Eladir entered the room. I am ready, Eladir said. Let's go then. Nightmare stopped flicking Iag on the head and leaped to land on Michael's shoulder. You're not coming, buddy, Michael said to Nightmare as he nodded. I know. Where is Gaia, though? What's taking her so long to kill one puny human? Iag sounded lazy and tired of playing with Nightmare for so long. However, what Michael said next excited her. She will join us later at the Pirate Haven Aiden. Buddy, Michael looked at Nightmare. Return to Royal Land and stay in the room. If anyone asks for me, contact me. Michael had to stay in the Royal Land Castle due to King Kramer and Queen Amat's hospitality. They were quite insistent for him to stay the night. Since Michael did not have any more business to conduct in Royal Land, he agreed to stay the night. As far as they were concerned, Michael was cultivating in his room. Nightmare nodded before vanishing into thin air. After Nightmare teleported to King Kramer's castle, Vidora landed on Michael's shoulder with a single leap. Surprisingly, a rune glowed on their body, and in a few seconds, they too vanished. But they didn't teleport like Nightmare. Instead, they just vanished from the naked eye thanks to Eladir's little rune. The cloaking rune would have been perfect for Ghost. However, according to Eladir, anyone above the body strengthening stage could see through the rune. Hence, there was no point in using the rune in the Cultivation continent, and Michael had no need to use the rune in the Southern continent. He did ask Eladir about placing the rune on his army, only to learn that the rune requires a high amount of arch energy. 50 arch energy crystals to hide oneself for 5 minutes wasn't a very eye-catching deal to Michael. Azazel, you go to the crypt and use the undead to clean the place. Dalar and Jonah also need a new working place, so see what you can do. Visits. For the best experience, as you wish, my lord. Following Nightmare, Azazel disappeared from the room. Finally, Michael and Eladir were teleported to Caius' mansion by the system, and when they appeared in the room, Maxine and Corey greeted Michael with a deep bow. My lord, my lord. Michael flicked his wrist as the throne materialized behind the oak table. He plunged onto the throne as Eladir took a long look at both Maxine and Corey for a few moments. Maxine, Corey, meet Eladir. Lord Eladir. Eladir just nodded. Maxine, is it ready? asked Michael. Yes, my lord. It's on the Big Bertha. Michael then turned his gaze towards Corey. So they haven't taken our offer? No, my lord. To be honest, I didn't expect them to be this stupid. A true pirate would have seen the opportunity. These are just mindless drunkards. I am glad you've seen the truth, Corey. Pirating is a fragile and dangerous business. If you don't change your ways, eventually, you'd go extinct. It's time we root out these weeds and unite the pirates under one banner, my banner. It'd be an honor for the pirates to serve you, my lord. Maxine felt proud and excited to unite all the pirates under the Dark Lord instead of the pirate lords. As a pirate herself, she knew the dangers of being a pirate. It was only a matter of time before the kingdoms unite against the pirates and strike them down. Especially, the Empress of Ar was keen to wipe out the pirates from not only the waters of Ar but also from the southern continent. The latest underscores are on website. However, once the Dark Lord unites the pirates and brands them as something else, the Empress might not go all out in a war against them. Go wait for me on the ship. Michael dismissed the two ladies and turned his gaze towards Eladir. You have something to ask? I don't quite clearly see your play here, my lord. First, you went to ally yourself with the Holy Church and now openly waging war against the pirates? Michael smiled. Who is hunting the Dark Lord along with the Guardians? The Holy Church. Ghost is now a friend of the Holy Church. Other than the obvious benefits such as being an ally to a growing superpower, now I hold the key to the Holy Church's destruction. Eladir looked more confused than before. I can only keep Ghost and the Dark Lord separate for a time, Eladir. Eventually, someone would always figure it out, someone smarter than I am. So when they figure it out, the Holy Church would be the last organization to come out full swinging. Because they would be crucified along with Ghost. By getting donations and being allies to Ghost, the Holy Church has become an ally to the Dark Lord. How could they go against Ghost's allies when they themselves are one? Eladir finally learned Ghost's reasoning behind his visit to the Holy Church. Now that the Holy Church received donations from Ghost, the Holy Church wouldn't be able to wage a war against Ghost because they would be busy fighting the Public and the Guardian Guild. What about your other allies? Asked Eladir. I have plans for them. But before someone figure out my identity, I better be strong and have an army strong enough to fight off our foes. We have to, my lord. I have seen what Skyhall could do. They would go to any length to stop you. They are the real evil in the form of good. Don't fret it, Eladir. They couldn't stop me when I wasn't even born. Now I am here and I have a score to settle. Michael willed the system as the skull mask covered his face. Just like a breezing wind, the two of them disappeared from the room. At that time, Gibson was preparing everything for Big Bertha's journey towards the pirate haven Aden. Since Maxine announced to the crew that the Dark Lord would arrive to meet them, the crew was extra motivated and didn't dare to slack off. Unlike the Silent Reaper, the Big Bertha was in pristine condition. No one would believe the ship was manned by the pirates or one would recognize the crew as pirates. Instead, the crew looked like disciplined soldiers wearing black leather armor and carrying new cutlasses. Visits. For a better user experience, of course, they still possessed habits such as getting as drunk as possible and eating without any restrictions. Maxine and Corey were still in the process of turning the pirates into soldiers, and Big Bertha's crew were the frontrunners to become disciplined warriors of the Dark Lord. Bring it out. Gibson climbed out of the lower decks and shouted at the crew before throwing a roll of ropes down the hole. Pull with all your strength. That thing is heavy. Maxine stood at the other end of the rope along with a group of pirates. The rope was attached to a pulley to make lifting the mortar a bit easier. You can lift it now. Gibson and Maxine heard Shorty shouting from the below decks. 1, 2, 3. Maxine counted until 3 to pull down the rope using every bit of her strength. While Maxine was pulling down the rope, Corey remained at the helm, waiting for the Dark Lord. Even without the so-called new weaponry, the Big Bertha was a beast. The upper deck alone had 10 cannons on each side. In addition, they fitted the Big Bertha with 3 rows of cannons, each with 15 broadside cannons. One side of Big Bertha totally had 40 cannons, making the total count of cannons a whopping 80 cannons. Usually, that number of cannons would slow down the ship, but the Dark Lord ordered them to do so despite the drawbacks. When Corey did a test run with Big Bertha, it took them almost 5 minutes to reload all the cannons. Unless they fixed the reload speed somehow, a talented ship captain could do a lot of damage to Big Bertha within 5 long minutes. As Corey was weighing the pros and cons of the Big Bertha, the Dark Lord finally appeared beside her, almost sending shivers down her spine. "My lord, our Dark Lord is at the helm," Gibson shouted as loud as he could when he saw Michael. Fortunately, the mortar was in place, or they would have saluted at Michael and dropped it down the hole. As Michael climbed down the steps from the helm, the crew bowed their heads towards Michael and Eladir. Corey followed the two of them behind to the mortar, where Michael saw the mortar forged with sturdy black metal and engraved with intricate patterns resembling a coiling dragon. The pirates were so curious to see what this thing could do. Under their curious gazes, Eladir squatted beside the mortar and drew a few symbols on its surface as well as inside the mortar through the firing hole. Although it looked as simple as drawing a few symbols, Michael knew the intricacy behind each rune. Among all the specializations in the world, rune mastery was the most difficult to master. According to Eladir, they had only explored 10% of the entire rune mastery. Michael hoped to bring out the fullest potential of rune mastery with the help of the system. Everyone, including Michael, waited for Eladir to finish. When he finally took his hand off the mortar, several runes brightly radiated crimson red light. Visit. For a better user experience, it's ready. Eladir wouldn't usually show any emotions on his face. Still, even he couldn't help proudly grinning after finishing one of his finest works to date. Gibson set a course to Aden. When the sun rises tomorrow, there will only be one pirate lord. With Corey's fleet following behind, the Big Bertha began her journey towards Aden. Michael remained at the helm looking at the night sky and enjoying the momentary peace. "You are in deep thinking, my lord." Maxine came to Michael's side and joined Gibson, Corey, and Eladir. "Have you notified Vance and Blackmane?" Maxine nodded. Instead of catching the pirates off guard, Michael ordered Maxine to notify Vance and Blackmane about the attack. He wanted the pirates to prepare for the war and use their full might. Only then could Michael destroy them and crush the pirates' morale once and for all. "Vance and Blackmane will be waiting for us with all their fleet, my lord." "Good." Michael remained calm despite the fact that he was about to face hundreds of ships in an all-out war. "Are we really going to destroy them all?" Maxine really doubted Michael would destroy the pirates, as he always tried to recruit them. However, by not joining Michael, Pirate Lord Vance and Pirate Lord Blackmane left him with no choice. "Some of them can't have a war without casualties, can we?" My lord, what about their fleet?" "The fewer ships we destroy, the more ships to our fleet." Corey added her thoughts, which aligned with everyone. Except for Eladir, who didn't give a damn about the pirate lords. The others wanted the Dark Lord to spare the majority of the ships. At this point, none dared to doubt the Dark Lord. The two pirate lords may have superior numbers, but the Dark Lord could destroy them with a few spells. How should I end the war? Should I kill the two pirate lords in front of their fleet or destroy their fleet in front of them? "If you're asking me, I'd say kill the two of them and end it quickly," Eladir shrugged. "I agree with Lord Eladir, my lord," Gibson said. "Yes, my lord." Killing the two pirate lords would end the war quickly. Most of the pirates would immediately surrender. However, some of the fanatics might choose to fight until death path. "We can destroy them to make a statement," Corey exclaimed. They all shared the same thought. Hence, Michael decided to listen to them because what they said was correct. He should capture the ships and strengthen his fleet rather than destroy the ships. It would take years to rebuild those ships. According to Corey, once he conquered their fleet, he might have almost 500 ships in his fleet. "You focus on destroying the fanatics. I will deal with Vance and Blackmane." It's a pity they chose false freedom over the opportunity to be something great. Some people are born to live a simple life, I guess. Under the full moon, Michael and his fleet sailed towards Aden. The Big Bertha moved in front of 120 ships, including several frigates and man-of-wars. Such a massive force would terrify any foe. But, while they were sailing forward, Michael noticed a few ships in the distance, following them. Those are Royal Navy, Gibson, who looked at the ships through the spyglass, exclaimed in shock. The latest underscores are on website. What are they doing in this water? Watching us. They want to see the battle. If I am right, someone very close to the Empress herself is in one of those ships. Should we attack them, my lord? Maxine asked. No, let them watch. They are not a threat to us. Meanwhile, in Aden, Vance was looking at the ocean through the window while taking long, deep sips of rum. Several pirate captains in his fleet accompanied him in the room. Some of them looked worried, but some looked outright excited. How long till they reach our waters? Asked Vance. Melina, the red-haired pirate who Corey met, answered, for hours top. We will show them who rules this part of the sea. Pirate lord, one of the pirate captains exclaimed. Still have no news about Blackmane, huh? Ignoring the pirate captain, Vance questioned Melina. No, but we have his fleet. So even if he doesn't show up, we can still beat Pirate Lord Corey and her fleet. Vance took another long sip and threw the empty mug away. What about the magic-wielding captain? Lucifer? Is he coming too? As soon as they heard the name Lucifer, the pirate captains who were afraid became more terrified. According to Maxina's note, yes. He is coming. I want to show him the true power of the pirates. I want to show him why those freaks never dared to set foot on our seas. Vance growled, and looking at his fearless tone, some of the pirate captains, including Melina, became courageous. No negotiation. The moment they come into our range, fire at will, Vance ordered. Everything is ready, Vance. Melina approached Vance. Well, take care of them. After today, there'll be only one true pirate lord. She seductively whispered into his ears, visits. For the best no understanding experience, Blackmane, you bastard? Where the fuck are you? Vance looked at the hundreds of ships lining around the island, forming a defense line. Although the fleet included Blackmane's forces, Vance still missed the guidance and leadership of Blackmane. I also took the liberty to initiate the backstabbing. Vance, Melina licked her lips and Vance, he just grinned. After everything was said and done, Vance came to his ship, a brigade built for speed rather than battle. Vance named his ship the Sailing Wind. The name suited the ship perfectly because it was one of the fastest ships on the southern continent. Vance used the ship for plundering hundreds of merchant ships transporting rum. Sailing Wind's speed always enabled Vance to hit and run until the opponent's ship was in no condition to fight. Vance even brought down a man of war with his ship. Now, he waited for Big Bertha to appear in his sight along with hundreds of ships behind him. Look! The pirate who stood atop the crow's nest shouted as Vance looked at the horizon through the spyglass. They are here. Vance could see the giant frigate sailing towards them, leading the fleet of Corey. All those ships flew a pure black flag instead of Corey's flags. Like storm clouds, the black ships approached Aden at the horizon. Get ready, pirates! Vance shouted as the sound of cannons creaking resonated throughout the area. Additionally, a loud bell rang in Aden, indicating the approaching danger. As soon as they enter our range, fire with all you have. Vance shouted again. Even in the face of war, he didn't neglect to bring a barrel of rum and chug a full mug down his throat. Every cannon in the ship and Aden aimed at the horizon and prepared to fire at will as soon as they enter their range. However, all the ships, including the Big Bertha, stopped a few meters away from their firing range. Why are they stopping? Melina asked, probably to negotiate. What if they don't sail towards us? We will go to them and sink them where they stand. Vance raised his mug, riling up his crew. They all let out a thunderous battle cry and prepared to move forward. But suddenly, they saw a bright red light shooting out of Big Bertha. What the hell? Vance and his ship turned red like someone aiming a red spotlight at them. Boom! While they were in confusion, a thunderous booming sound echoed through the calm sea. Vance looked up at the sky to see countless stars falling down upon them. Vance and his ship didn't even realize what just hit them until they exploded into bits and pieces. Oh my god! Pirate Lord! Vance. Shit! The latest underscores are on Website. Dark magic. The pirates were in utter confusion. Moreover, they were terrified. After destroying Vance's sailing wind, the red spot light fell on a couple of more ships, and the result was the same. Boom, boom, boom. At this time, the pirates did not wait for Corey's fleet to enter their firing range but began to fire the cannons aimlessly at Big Bertha. As the pirates were raining down cannonballs, a dark cloud slowly flew towards Aden. Surrender! The demonic voice swept across the sea, terrifying the pirates. Gradually, the dark cloud faded away, revealing the Dark Lord to the pirates. Fire! However, a daring pirate captain decided to fire at Michael. But before he could take aim, the red spotlight fell on the ship. Boom! The result was the same as the ship exploded into smithereens. The mortar was more powerful than Michael expected. Michael did not stop. Instead, he pointed at Aden, signaling Maxine to aim the mortar fire at Aden. He wanted to destroy the walls and the island partially to make a statement. Under the pirates' shocked gazes, countless meteors landed on Aden, destroying the walls and everything in the explosion's vicinity. Oh my God, Gibson shuddered in fear, looking at all the death and destruction. Instead of stopping with Aden's walls and a couple of ships, Michael continued to point at ships as Maxine fired the mortar, destroying several ships in under a few minutes. Everywhere Corey turned her gaze, there was nothing but explosions. Vance did not even stand a chance. She thought Michael would fly to Vance, grab him by his neck and kill him in front of the pirates. Yet, what happened was the exact opposite. He did not even lift a finger at Vance. If you want to join your friends, fire. Michael's voice amplified to the point it sounded like a thunderclap. The pirates shivered to hear his demonic voice. Even the most fearless pirate captains shuddered and hesitated to order their crew to fire at him. Meanwhile, Big Bertha and Corey's fleet slowly started to sail towards Aden that was burning like a bonfire. Everything was going according to plan until some of the ships in Corey's fleet began to fire at Big Bertha and the others. Michael quickly turned his gaze towards his fleet to see some ships firing at their allies. Visit. For a better user experience, backup plan, huh? Regardless of the sudden betrayal, Michael did not even raise a brow. Instead, he just flew toward Big Bertha to deal with the traitors in a most brutal way. Unlike Michael, the others on the Big Bertha were completely caught off guard. Traitors! Shorty leaped onto the railing and shouted viciously. We can't fire at them without damaging them. Gibson pointed at the friendly ships stuck between the Big Bertha and traitors. Corey shivered from top to bottom, fearing what the Dark Lord would do to her because of her crew's betrayal. I should have seen it, Corey mumbled. But all of a sudden, a dark emerald green mist enveloped the ships of the traitors. One by one, all the traitor ships got covered in thick green mist. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, all the ships enveloped in green mist exploded except one frigate. When the dust and smoke settled down, Gibson and the others saw the Dark Queen hovering above them. Gaia flew towards the last ship of the traitors and saw a few dead bodies on the upper deck. It was apparent to Gaia that the traitors killed those loyal to Corey. Seeing the others explode to death, the rest of them were terrified. Every single one shivered from head to toe and looked as pale as a white sheet. You're traitorous maggots! Gaia's shout shook the frigate and sent shivers down their spines. Michael smiled behind his mask, looking at Gaia in action. Under their gazes, Gaia waved her hand as the poisonous green mist coiled around each individual on the ship. Taking the traitors with her, she flew towards Vance's fleet. Since there was momentary confusion among Corey's fleet, Vance's pirate captains tried to attack them. But Gaia destroyed the traitors faster than Vance's fleet could fire at them. The traitors frantically squirmed against the poisonous mist around them to escape. They used all their strength but to no avail. I would have hated to miss this action, Gaia said, without bothering to hide her killing intent. Visit. For the best no_vel__ experience, let me show them what would happen when someone betrays us. Gaia flicked her wrist as all the 20 traitors lined up in front of them in the sky. At that moment, all the eyes were on the traitors. Her cold gaze swept across the traders as she raised her hand and clenched her fist. As soon as she closed her fist, a sliver of green mist slowly rose upwards and entered their nostrils. Michael wasn't interested in anything else other than watching the traders violently twitch and puke dark red blood through every pore in their bodies. Not a single sound could be heard except their traits, screaming and wailing for help. It was a long, slow, painful death. But compared to their deaths, Vance and the others were gifted. At least, they died instantly instead of suffering Gaia's poison that corroded their organs from within. After a few minutes, the traders turned into a bloody puddle and oozed down into the ocean. Now who wants to fight? Michael's thunderous demonic voice echoed through the silent ocean. None of them dared to raise a finger at the Dark Lord this time. Instead, the pirates dropped their swords and stared at Corey's fleet, slowly sailing towards Aden. Michael and Gaia floated in the sky until all of Corey's fleet surrounded the island. Afterward, Corey's men rushed into Aden, facing no resistance from the pirates. At that moment, the pirates thought about nothing else except what was going to happen to them. They had no one to lead or give them guidance. Once Corey's men captured all the defense cannons in Aden, Michael descended towards Vance's castle. The residents of Aden, mostly young women, and elderly pirates stared at Michael in utter shock. They couldn't believe seeing someone flying and using spells. Some even dropped to their knees and began to worship, mistaking Michael and Gaia for gods. Ignoring them, Michael entered Vance's room through the window and waited for his subordinates to arrive. Bang! Michael raised his hand, blasting away Vance's chair with a gust of wind. Then he brought the skull and bones thrones with a flick of his wrist. But before he plunged into his throne, he looked at the dark corner of the room. "You can come out now." Gaia sat on her throne, resting her one leg atop one before Michael, and waited for the united guest to reveal himself. After hearing Michael's words, a tall man walked out of the shadows, slow clapping. The man had a long bushy beard braided like Vikings and outlined his eyes with dark mascara. He walked out of the shadows using a cane to support his limping. Although the man looked vicious and had an aura of a pirate, he dressed like a higher army official. He was dressed in white and had medals and ribbons attached to his chest, while several strips of colors were engraved on both of his broad shoulders. Except for the long white coat and a white feather hat, the man looked similar to a Navy officer on Earth. Michael just sat on his throne and waited for the man to introduce himself, although Michael had already guessed the man's identity. Lucifer A. the Dark Lord. The man used his cane to raise the chair from the ground before sitting on it. Pirate Lord Blackmane. The pirates still believe you are on a voyage, Michael calmly said in his demonic voice. What Michael said was the truth. The man before them was none other than the most powerful pirate lord of the three, Gibbs Blackmane Jet. Visit. For a better user experience, pirates are an endangering species, Lucifer. We both know that. Gaia remained silent despite the fact she didn't like how he addressed Michael by his name. I don't blame you for joining the Empress. I have no problem with that as long as your Royal Navy don't raise their flags against my army. On the contrary, Lucifer. I am here to broker peace between the Royal Navy and the pirates. Her Highness believes the new leadership might take the pirates in another direction than the predecessors. Blackmane had a wise tone to his voice. Michael liked how calm Blackmane was despite the obvious fact Michael could kill him with a single snap of his finger. Interesting. I am sure there are conditions, right? Asked Gaia. Simple. The Royal Navy will leave the southern continent waters in exchange for a peace treaty. You don't plunder our merchants and we won't attack you, but you don't conduct business in someone's home without paying them tribute, do you? 20%. The merchants will pay 20% of whatever they are bringing into your waters. It's a nice deal, Gaia whispered into Michael's ears. But Michael had a feeling there was something else in Blackmane's list of things he wanted from them. What else? Michael didn't beat around the bush or accept the deal right away. There is an island not too far from Aden. It belonged to Her Highness' father. He bought the island from a pirate named Isaiah. This is the document proving the claim. Blackmane slowly put his hand into his coat pocket and retrieved a golden parchment. He threw the parchment towards Michi as Gaia caught it in midair and opened it to read the contents. Her Highness would appreciate it if the island is returned to her. For a few minutes, Michael did not respond to Blackmane. I will give the island back to her on one condition. No military bases in my territory. Blackmane's eyes showed a glint of reluctance. His moments of silence indicated to Michael that they were planning to use the island as a military base. But now that Michael said no to that, Blackmane had no choice but to agree or let go of the island. Understandable. No military bases. We have no more conditions. We would appreciate it if we sign a contract with all our conditions and terms. You want a signed contract from the Dark Lord? Ah, Michael burst into devilish laughter as the room grew darker and darker. Visits. For the best no_vel_read_G experience regardless of the phenomenon that could terrify many men, Blackmane remained calm and composed. Sure thing. Tell your Empress the pirates are no more. It's the Dark Army from now on. And they will not bother her merchant ships. Wonderful. Finally Blackmane grinned. I will bring the contract tomorrow, Blackmane nodded, standing up from the chair. Michael wondered how he was going to leave the room only to be stunned by Blackmane when he just vanished into thin air. Did he just teleport? Gaia creased her brows. Seems like the Empress is an interesting person, Michael said to Gaia. Leaving the room teleporting was a statement. The Empress wanted Michael to know that they also had ways to use arch energy inside the void line. Since Michael anticipated it from the most powerful continent in the world, Blackmane's little teleportation trick didn't surprise him. My lord. Eventually, Corey and Maxine entered the room after putting out the fire and capturing all the pirates who tried to escape Aiden. It's done, my lord. We removed all the masts and put them in the dungeon beneath the castle. They can't move anywhere unless they want to go swimming, Maxine said with an amused tone. I am sure Vance has a hoard of rum somewhere here. Distribute it among the men. Make sure they have a good time, but no plundering of women, Gaia added coldly. As you wish, my lord. What about the pirates, my lord? Corey asked, looking at the hundreds of ships outside through the window behind Michael. Give them a choice between joining us or leaving Aiden. From now on, there will be no more pirates and piracy. We are going legit, Gaia simply ordered Maxine and Corey. Getting 20% of the merchants without plundering was a great deal. When the word about their deal gets out, more and more merchants will venture into the southern continent. As a result, not only would they get free stuff, but the economy of Gisel and the kingdoms under Michael's control would also drastically improve. To stay in control and power, they needed a steady revenue stream such as this. And you two should take a break too. You deserve it, Michael said as Corey and Maxine nodded because they were tired and needed a break. Ghosty, it's time you return here. The king and queen are asking for you. After Corey and Maxine left the room, Michael heard Nightmare calling him. Let's go back to Royal Land. Visits. For the best no_G experience. By the time Michael returned to the castle, King Kramer and Queen Amat were waiting for him with a red-haired young man. He adorned matching fiery red robes and had a deviant look to him. Ghost. Meet Moriette, King Kramer's long-distant cousin. Queen Amat emphasized the word distant to Michael. By the look on her face, Michael could see the tension between the two. Several miles distant, Moriette exclaimed with a mocking smile. Pleasure to meet you, Moriette. Michael firmly shook the young man's hands with a smile. The pleasure is all mine. Let's sit, shall we? They all plugged themselves onto the white sofa as the maids brought down several beverages, including orange juice for Michael. It's so amazing to see such a young fusion stage cultivator. I thought all fusion stage cultivators are old, Moriette laughed. People say hardwood never fails, but it's not true always. I mean, no matter how hard you cultivate, if you don't have luck, resources, and talent, you can't climb higher stages. Michael took a little sip of his orange juice and told Moriette. That's true, Moriette nodded. But it doesn't matter. If you can't get to the higher stages, enjoy what you have. Yeah, right. Believe me or not, I live by those words. Look at me, I can't get past the body strengthening stage. I tried so many potions and stuff, but I simply lack the talent. So now I'm focused more on enjoying the mortal pleasures instead of sitting in a room, cultivating. Michael noticed Queen Amat rolling her eyes, thinking no one had noticed her. End of the day, enjoying the life all it matters. Michael pretended to agree with Moriet. I am so glad to see someone who's powerful as you agree with my views. Now please tell me what kind of property you're looking for in Royal Land. I have several in the capital and I'd be happy to give one of it to you. I heard you wanted to offer a share? Michael nodded. The latest underscores are on website. That works great for me too. Now that I remember, one of your people came to me asking to buy one of my buildings in the capital. Pardon me for not agreeing then, Moriet apologized. He was a pervert who wanted to bed Raylene, but he was not a fool to think about her anymore. As Moriet said, he valued his life, and touching a fusion stage cultivator's women would be like jumping into the fire. Therefore, Moriet erased the thought of touching Raylene. It's okay. Is it still available? I'd appreciate it if I can use that building to open up another branch of Hades in Royal Land. Consider the building is yours. I'll send one of my men to you with the deed. Wonderful, Michael grinned. What about we celebrate it over a nice boat party? Michael sighed after hearing Moriet. It's not that Michael was truly disappointed, but he pretended to be upset. As a fusion stage cultivator, Michel could kill Moriet without much worry. To be honest, Michael didn't think King Kramer would go to war with him if he killed Moriet. However, being strong didn't mean he should make more enemies. Instead, Michael chose to use his power to make more allies. Unfortunately, I have to go to Aur to attend the Aqua auction. But I give you my word, when I return, I'll definitely attend one of your parties. After all, we are kinda partners right now. Partners, huh? I like the sound of that. Moriet clanked Michael's glass with his wine glass. Although Queen Amat was annoyed, King Kramer looked relieved. Finally, his good-for-nothing cousin got a powerful young man as a friend. King Kramer just couldn't help wishing Moriet would be like Ghost. Queen Amat was Moriet's family, but even she hated him to the core. But none of them noticed the spider crawling on Moriet's sleeves and disappearing into his collar. After everything was said and done, Michael departed from the castle, heading towards the Holy Church. In the mid-air, Gaia and Nightmare joined him. What is this? Michael wiped the cookie crumbs off her mouth. After Michael cleaned her mouth, she grinned from ear to ear. Her eyes were full of excitement, just like Nightmare. So we are finally going to Aur, huh? Asked Gaia. She rubbed her hands together in excitement. It had been so long since she returned to Aur. She couldn't help thinking of her kingdom, Nagaland, an island in the seas of Aur. Visits. For the best no_vel_G experience, aren't you guys missing something? You told me you would kill that guy who tried to creep on Raylene, Nightmare asked Michael and Gaia while slowly flying towards the Holy Church. We will go to Aur and meet Eve. Then, teleport back to Royal Land, finish him off and return to Aur again. That way, no one will suspect us, Michael quickly explained to Nightmare on his way to the Holy Church. After several minutes of flying, the yellow maple valley appeared in their eyes. This time, they flew directly towards the Holy Church because Michael had the privilege to fly in the church's vicinity. The teleportation portal was on the northern side of the castle where an enormous garden of roses surrounded the portal. The blue vortex was in the middle surrounded by hundreds of blood-red roses. A bald man approached Michael with a gentle smile when Michael, Nightmare, and Gaia landed on the garden pathway. Believer Ghost. His Holiness asked me to give you access to the portal. I am Believer Maxwell. Michael bowed towards Maxwell and so did Nightmare and Gaia. This is my fiancée, Elia, and my familiar, Nightmare. They are also loyal worshippers of the Great One and Two. Maxwell was stunned to hear a dragon was actually a worshipper of the Great One and Two. But after hearing Ghost, Maxwell grinned so brightly. It feels so great to see youngsters and a dragon believes in the Great One and Two. This world needs more people like you. Gaia almost coughed blood and burst into laughter. One big donation and the entire Holy Church began to believe Michael was a true worshipper of their gods. To be honest, Michael was the last one who would believe in the Great One and Two. He was using these idiots, but they had no idea. So instead, they believed Ghost to be a true believer. The exit portal is located in Ysirius in Kingdom Thera. Wonderful. Michael was glad that the exit portal was on Ysirius, Eve's home city. Otherwise, he would have had to fly from one city to Ysirius. He preferred to meet Eve first before starting to explore R. Have a wonderful journey, Believer Ghost, Believer Elia, and Believer Nightmare. Maxwell took time to bow towards each of them as they returned the gesture by bowing toward Maxwell. The latest underscores are on website. May the Great One and Two be with you and guide you on your journey. Maxwell raised his palm, blessing the trio. Afterward, the trio approached the portal. The closer they got to the portal, the stronger they felt the pull. We will meet again soon, Believer Maxwell, Michael said, looking over his shoulder before finally walking into the portal. After coming to this world, it took Michael almost 2 years to find time to visit R. However, thanks to his runic teleportation skill, he could go back and forth once he left a rune somewhere on R. Thera was a modest kingdom bordered by a calm sea to the north, rich forests to the south, a wide river to the east, and a large mountain to the west. Citizens of Kingdom Thera mainly lived off weaponsmithing, wine brewing, and blacksmithing. The kingdom's landscape was stunning: green, open fields, astonishing aquatic wildlife, and dramatic rock formations were just a sliver of the charm Thera has to offer, which was why the country was beloved among foreigners. The people of Thera were welcoming towards foreigners and tend to welcome them with friendliness. This was because they felt foreigners could fortify the kingdom's well-being. The city of Ysirius was built at the base of a modest mountain and was truly an ever-growing wonder. Its beauty was matched by the backdrop of ever-clear skies and the snowy mountain. The climate these skies brought was of great importance and also influenced the architectural designs, as the vast majority of buildings were designed to take full advantage of the climate, as more daring elements could be created when you don't have to worry about strong winds. The skyline was riddled with towering tall buildings, and many seemed to have evolved throughout the ages. The culture was rising in Ysirius and had attracted a lot of attention. Many new cultures had left their mark not just on trade and relations, but also on the city's identity. What historically was a city of elves has grown into a multicultural hub where humans, beast men, and elves coexist peacefully. At that time, inside a brightly lit hall, Michael walked out of the portal along with Gaia and Nightmare. As soon as he stepped out of the portal, the trio was stunned by the man who welcomed them. Maxwell? Michael tilted his head, staring at the man from top to bottom. The man welcomed Michael, Gaia, and Nightmare looked exactly the same as Maxwell. Believer Maxwell is my twin brother. I am Believer Vishrian. Welcome to Kingdom Thera. The man bowed and the trio did the same. Visits. For a better user experience, you must be Believer Ghost. Michael nodded. Yes, and this is my fiancée Elia and familiar Nightmare. After exchanging pleasantries, Vishrian finally led them towards the golden door. While walking towards the door, Michael felt the excitement coursing through his veins. It was time he dominated the most powerful continent in the world. The excitement to explore a new land coursed through his veins. However, Vishrian dosed cold water upon his excitement by taking out a pale blue face mask from his space ring. Put this on before you step aside. Michael creased his brows. I don't get it. There is a plague ravishing Kingdom Thera, Believer Ghost. The sinners are reaping what they sow, Vishrian said so calmly, like it was a simple matter. Plague? Gaia was in a state of shock. The last time a plague hit R, millions of people including Nagas died. You don't have to worry about the plague. The Great One and Two protect those who believe in them. These words showed the extent of Vishrian's idiocy. Although the Holy Church believers were good to him, Michael felt he was dealing with a bunch of fanatics. Given a chance, the Holy Church would do more harm than good. They just didn't have the resources and power to rival the Great Eight clans. But with the recent fall of Guardians, the Holy Church was getting more popular among the people. Michael may have given a torch to lunatics in disguise. So are we even allowed to go to Thera? Normally when a plague hit, They closed the borders, right? Michael asked, standing before the golden door. They will close the borders soon. So I hope you will get what you're looking for, believer ghost. May the Great One and Two be with you and guide you, Vishrian calmly said, opening the door and revealing nothing but soft, squashy clouds. There was no building or rods in front of him. Except, Michael saw an endless blue sky with puffy clouds stretched as far as he could see. Only then did he realize he was in the sky. When he took a step outside and turned around, he saw the Gothic-style building that was much grander, just like the one in Royal Land. Visit. For a better user experience, the church was built on a floating mountain like some buildings in Aquilon realm. We will meet again soon, believer Vishrian. Michael quickly bowed towards Vishrian. He wanted to check on Eve. For some reason, he immediately worried about her. It almost felt like the two of them have some kind of strong bond. He didn't know before the Dark Lord used the time travel rune that Eve was his best friend. She sacrificed herself to save him. If it wasn't for her, Michael wouldn't be here. Although the Dark Lord reset the time, the deep friendship bond remained strong. Michael shot out from the mountain like a rocket, leaving a shock wave behind. In his haste, he failed to ask where the Voldegard compound was. Hopefully, Gaia knew where it was. Those are crazy bastards, Michael. The plague hit them? What the fuck? He was so calm. These morons are lunatics. Gaia cursed them, diving towards the city on the land. They seem just as bad as the Guardians, Nightmare said. It doesn't matter now. Let's go meet Eve. There is an opportunity here. No shit, Gaia rolled her eyes. I did some sick shit, but it feels wrong to see the plague as an opportunity. Gaia knew the obvious golden opportunity presented itself in the name of the plague. She knew Michael could pull some miracle and cure the plague. However, it felt wrong to get rich from a plague. I don't feel like that. We are not responsible for the plague. If someone else finds the cure, so be it. Otherwise, we may as well find the cure and sell it for millions. What about the poor? Nightmare asked Michael. There is no poverty in R. That's why it's called the most powerful and rich continent in the world. A farmer in R earns 10 times more than one in Elon or Azer. Gaia's words didn't only surprise Nightmare but also Michael. Visits. For a better user experience, it seemed like the rulers of other races were far better than the humans in ruling a kingdom. The closer they got to the city, the better Michael could see the majestic view of Ysirius. The city itself looked like a hybrid between fantasy and style. However, despite the majestic tall buildings, the streets looked empty and the gray mist around the city gave a gloomy look to it. The Voldegard compound is that way. Follow me. Gaia pointed at the northern side of the city where Michael saw a mountain resembling Mount Fuji in the distance. Michael and Nightmare flew behind Gaia while noticing the eerie city beneath them. So many sick. Nightmare's superior hearing sense enabled him to hear the countless coughing and vomiting coming from the city. At the moment, inside the Voldegard compound, several dead bodies in plate armor riddled the front yard. Some of the soldiers had their helmets removed so one could see the grayish skin and the dark green webs of veins underneath the gray skin. The broken fountain in the center was still pumping out water from the lion's head. The dead bodies formed a line surrounding the majestic castle of House Voldegard. A regular gate with great wooden doors, a drawbridge, and hot oil pots guarded the inhabitants of the castle. It was the only easy way in. Like any place in R, neatly pruned trees decorated the land along with colorful flower beds. The round towers dwarfed everything below them and were connected by fortified, thick walls made of gray stone. The decorated windows added an extra charm to the castle as the walls had overhanging crenellations for archers and artillery. But at the moment, there were no archers or anyone to man the giant crossbows. The gate which guarded the castle for hundreds of years fell for the first time as the compound of Voldegards became a battlefield. Michael was not the only one who viewed the plague as an opportunity. House Rotgard sieged House Voldegard when the latter was at its weakest. When the plague hit Ysirius, House Voldegard ensured the citizens got the best treatment possible instead of quarantining themselves like many noble families. As a result, Many of the Voldegards were infected by the plague and lost their ability to use archenergy. The plague killed almost half of the Voldegards, including several fusion stage protectors. Since they lost the protectors, House Rotgard, which ran away as soon as the plague hit the city, returned to decimate Voldegards for once and for all. But one protector of Voldegard stood between the House Rotgard soldiers and the castle, Eve Voldegard. Like a lioness facing hyenas, she stood tall with her hammer in her hands. The red-armored House Rotgard soldiers cowered after she killed most of their fellow soldiers. When they started the siege, they had 100 soldiers, but now, the number was reduced to 30. Despite Eve's core-strengthening cultivation stage, she even managed to kill a soul-refining stage warrior. Visits. For the best no-under-scorvender-surrenders experience, I can do this all day. Eve wiped off the blood running from her mouth's corner and taunted the surrounded soldiers. Especially, her cold gaze was on the man who led the siege, Igor Rotgard. Igor was a tall youngster with long red hair. He covered his mouth and nose with a red dragon mask. He wore a simple robe that revealed his hairy chest as well as the tattoo of a fire-breathing red dragon. Since all the fusion stage protectors had succumbed to the plague, House Rotgard only sent the core-strengthening stage warriors along with a couple of soul refiners. Fortunately, the soul refiners from Voldegards killed House Rotgard's soul refiners before dying due to the wounds. Eve killed the last soul refiner and many core-strengthening stage warriors and remained the last woman standing from House Voldegard. But you don't have all day. Look at you. You're tired, breathing heavily, and bleeding from your ears. You and I both know you won't stand much longer. So do yourself a favor and step aside. I'll promise to give you a proper burial, Igor said, slowly stepping towards Eve. He was right and Eve knew it. She could feel the arch energy in her body slowly dating away. Soon, she would lose the sense of arch energy as well as strength in her body. Even lifting her hammer wasn't as easy as before. Every cell in her body screamed at her to drop the hammer and close her eyes. She had been fighting for days without any rest. If it wasn't for House Rotgard's resolution to use minimal force to wipe out House Voldegard, House Rotgard would have destroyed House Voldegard by now. But, for some reason, every time Eve blinked, he saw Ghost and his smiling face. It felt like yesterday she fought together with him. Her sister was fighting for her life in the castle, but all she could think was how good it would be to fight together with Ghost one last time. Step closer, and I'll give you a proper burial, Eve snickered. Well, I tried to be nice, just like my healer said. I think it's time to do things my way. By his way, Igor obviously meant killing Eve. Instead of sending soldiers one by one to her, Igor signaled all 30 soldiers to flank her simultaneously from all directions. Eve began to spin the hammer as fast as she could to the point Igor only saw a blur and heard the whistling sound of the wind. Although he was here to kill Eve and her family, he couldn't help admiring her. He almost felt pity for the Voldegards. Whoa, come on, when Igor noticed his soldiers stepping towards Eve like mindless fools. Visits. For the best no_vel__ng experience, she will beat the crap out of you if you get too close, idiots. Use your spells for God's sake. The soldiers quickly halted their steps, preparing to cast spells. I swear to gods, one of these days, I am gonna lose my mind and start killing you incompetent fools. After getting yelled at by Igor, the soldiers of Rotgard finally began to cast spells. On the other hand, Eve kept spinning her hammer and prepared herself to be bombarded with spells. She was more of a close combat fighter rather than a spellcaster. Thus, instead of casting spells, she chose to hit her foes with the hammer. It always worked for her and she wasn't going to change now. Pillar of Iron. One soldier at the level 10 core strengthening stage raised his hand, forming a giant pillar made of energy in the air. It was so large and long that it would hit his fellow soldiers before hitting Eve. My expectations are way low for you guys, but holy fuck, you keep surprising me. Igor felt like he was about to lose his mind. Instead, he slowly started to learn why House Rotgard could never surpass House Voldegard. With incompetent soldiers like them, How could they achieve anything, let alone wipe out the Voldegards? He got more furious when he noticed the soldier keeping the pillar in the air instead of just hitting Eve with it. Hit her! Igor shouted. He wanted the pillar to hit the others more than Eve because they were just staring at the pillar instead of finishing casting spells. Yes, boss. Finally, the soldier shouted and brought the pillar, swinging down at Eve. Boom. However, the moment the pillar hit Eve, instead of Eve flying away, it was the soldiers who got scattered by the shockwave. The shockwave didn't spare Igor either, as he too was sent flying several meters by the force. When Igor managed to get himself to his feet, he saw someone standing in front of Eve with a black shield. Ghost! Eve couldn't believe her eyes. A fucking fusion stage? What the fuck? Igor scratched his eyes in utter disbelief. The man who shielded Eve looked so young, perhaps younger than him. Yet he was at the fusion stage. Thank you for inviting me to a plague-ridden city, Eve. Ghost rolled his eyes. How can I suffer alone? Eve let out an exhausted chuckle, stumbling forward. I got your back. Michael quickly wrapped his hand around Eve's shoulder to steady her. Visits. For a better user experience, you know you don't have to do this, right? Eve could barely utter these words. I do. Michael gave a quick rub to her shoulder and turned his gaze towards Igor. Dude, look, this can go two ways. I will kill you and your guys, and your family will get involved. Fight me, my family will get involved. The two families will fight an all-out war. We both suffer, and another one will try to take out the one who survives. Or, you take your guys and head home and wait for the plague to wipe out the Voldegards. Michael calmly talked to Igor. If you die here, it doesn't matter if your family kills me or not. You will be under 6 feet instead of enjoying your golden age. So why don't you have a little patience and choose the second option? Igor deeply thought about what the youngster just said. Finally, it made sense to Igor. There was no point in dying, and Igor knew no way in hell he could defeat a fusion stage warrior with these incompetent fools. Boss, we should get out here. My mask has a crack in it. Oh my God, we are gonna die. Boss, save us. Looking at the soldiers shouting, Michael almost laughed. Oh fuck, they are embarrassing me, Igor screamed inside. If anyone asked, I fought and survived a fusion stage cultivator. Got it? Igor asked his men as they frantically bobbed their heads up and down. They wanted to get out of the place as fast as they could, and nothing else mattered to them. Finally, after 2 days of battle, Eve saw Igor and his men flying away from their compound. After their figures disappeared into the clouds, she heaved a sigh of relief. Wow, those are really different. Where I came from, they would have chosen death. Don't be too happy. They will return here with more guys. And what the hell? When and how did you reach the fusion stage? I'd love to explain, but can we do it inside? I was kinda hoping for a grand welcome from you. I have to say, I am a little bit disappointed. Visits. For a better user experience, it's not too late to go back to Elon. Ghost, Eve whispered while Michael was taking her back inside the castle. And spread the plague to Elon? No thanks. How about we cure the plague and get filthy rich, huh? At this point, Eve couldn't hear him clearly. She just smiled and closed her eyes, trusting Ghost got her back. With Eve dosing out on his shoulder, Michael pushed open the giant black metal door to see the gloomy, dimly lit hallway void of any life. Just like any other castle hallways, the walls were decorated with portraits of various Voldegards. As Michael was walking on the red carpet, he could hear coughs and growling coming from inside. Jennifer, Tenny. Eve began to mumble under her breath. I got her, Michael whispered to Eve, walking her to the hall. As soon as he stepped out of the hallway, the sight of countless people on the marble floor welcomed him. The people were coughing and vomiting blood. He didn't expect the air to be so pungent with a strong, nauseating smell. It was enough to turn any grown man's face green. You better pray I don't get sick, bastard. Michael heard an angry shout and looked up to see Gaia climbing down the stairs with Nightmare on her shoulder. And Eve Voldegard, I presume? Gaia looked at Eve, who kept mumbling Jennifer's name. What then ruckus out there? Did you kill them all? Gaia asked, standing on the stairs instead of getting to the hall. They seem nice. When I said to turn back and leave, they really did that. If it was back on Elon, we would have had an all-out war by now. We may have something far worse in our hands. Gaia looked at the elves, humans, and beast men with gray skin on the floor. She creased her brows, looking at them growling and coughing up blood. Look what we found. Then, with a flick of her wrist, Gaia took out an empty vial from her space ring. She threw it at Michael, and when he caught the vial, he immediately recognized what was inside the vial, just by the smell of it. Our healing potion. They were treating them with our healing potion, Gaia said with a tinge of surprise hiding within her voice. Finding a treatment. That's half the battle won. Let's put her in her room and start working on a cure. With the system's help, finding a cure for the plague didn't even seem like a big deal to Michael. But, as an alchemist, he had a few ideas about where to start. We may know where her room is. Follow me. Nightmare leaped into the air and flapped his wings, leading Michael above the stairs to the second floor. Visits. For the best no_vil__g experience, Michael took Eve in his arms and flew behind Nightmare. Despite the fact there was a woman in his arms, Gaia didn't feel the slightest jealousy because she trusted him. Plus, Michael told Gaia about how he felt about Eve. If Eve was a friend of Ghost, she would be a friend of hers too. Following Nightmare, Michael entered a spacious corridor and flew past several rooms. Every single room contained a sick person inside. After passing 10 or so rooms, Michael came before a marble door where he saw the name Eve Voldegard engraved. Gaia pushed open the door, but instead of finding an empty room, they found Jennifer lying in a large circle bed in the dark room. The curtains were all shut to prevent any light from coming through the window. To be honest, Michael felt like he had entered a boy's room because the room was messy as hell. There was not a single book in the room, but broken dummies, swords, shields, and robes were thrown all over the place. He even saw a brat hanging onto a portrait of a lion. Jennifer's skin was gray, unlike Eve's, and they saw blood oozing out of Jennifer's ear, drenching the white pillow beneath. Michael gently placed Eve beside Jennifer. Although he shouldn't place Eve beside a patent like Jennifer, Eve was already infected, and there was no point in quarantining Eve. They were all past the point of getting quarantined. Instead, Michael focused on finding the cure. As a first step, Michael placed his hand on Eve, sticking a needle inside her wrist from his APD. He took a blood sample from Eve and took a giant needle from his system storage. That's one big-ass needle. Gaia raised her brows, seeing Michael sticking the needle into Jennifer's neck and sucking out enough blood to turn her face paler. Even after taking a giant needle through her neck, Jennifer didn't move an inch. Nightmare could barely hear her heartbeats. If he was right, Jennifer didn't have long to live. Maybe a week or two at most. Michael put the 2 vials of blood into his system storage before summoning the system. System, analyze the blood sample and offer me a cure. The system level is too low to find a cure by analyzing the 2 blood samples. The system can find a formula to the cure if the host provides either a blood or a tissue sample of patient 0. At the moment, Michael didn't have enough points to upgrade the system. He would rather have the points in case of an emergency rather than spend them on the system. For some reason, Michael felt he would need the points soon. Besides, he would return to Mazeroth soon. No matter what, Mazeroth was a place controlled by Skyhall. It would be stupid to venture into enemy territory without having backup plans. Patient 0, huh? Eve might have an idea. Michael sat beside Eve, taking out a healing potion from his system storage. What's the plan? Asked Gaia. To find a cure, I need the first infected person. I think Eve might know who that was. Visits. For the best no__g experience. A thin needle extended from Michael's wrist, entering Eve's neck. Michael slowly sent the healing potion into Eve's bloodstream. Eve's breathing improved after the healing potion entered her body. As a result, slight rosiness returned to her skin. Gaia, who sat beside Jennifer at the other end of the bed, saw Eve's finger twitching. Boom! Suddenly, the windows shattered as the hammer shot into the room and landed in Eve's hand. That's cool. Nightmare shrunk himself to land between Eve and Jennifer. He tried to touch the hammer, but when he did, a bolt of electricity entered his body. Ah! Nightmare jolted back. What happened? Asked Gaia, chuckling. It zapped me, Nightmare complained and bore his teeth at the hammer. On the other hand, Eve's breathing got normal as she slowly opened her eyes to see Michael smiling back at her. So it wasn't a dream. Her smile suddenly froze as she jerked her head aside to see Jennifer beside her. Jenny, she is still sick, Gaia answered her, taking Eve's gaze away from Jennifer for a moment. Eve, this is my fiancé I told you about, Elia. And that's Nightmare. I wish we had met under different circumstances. Gaia reached out to shake Eve's hand. Eve gritted her teeth to fight the pain and shook Gaia's hand. After Gaia firmly shook Eve's hand, Nightmare gently reached Eve with a leap and nudged Eve's face. I'll be alright. You have the best miracle worker in the whole world. Did you know I was death-kissed and he saved me? I don't know what death kiss is, but I assume it's something worse. Far worse, Gaia nodded. Yes, the point is we can find a cure. Nightmare's kind words put a gentle smile on Eve's face. However, the smile contained misery and sadness rather than delight. The latest underscores are on website. Our best healers tried before succumbing to the plague. Our only hope is the heavenly alchemists. Fuck the heavenly alchemists. You have the godly alchemist right in front of you. Gaia's brash words quite surprised Eve, but what she heard from Ghost surprised her even more. I can find a cure if you get me to the person who got infected first. Any idea who that was? Before answering Michael's question, Eve flicked her wrist, taking out a healing potion. This is the last one. Eve sighed before gently opening Jennifer's mouth to pour the healing potion into her mouth. I don't know when the shipment is coming next. You do know Ghost brewed that potion, right? Eve took a deep breath and nodded as an answer to Gaia's question. After the plague hit 2 weeks ago, no one could get their hands on them. I sent someone to ask for yourself, but he never came back. Weird. How much did you pay for a potion? 25,000 after the plague. Before that, it's 15 to 18,000. As soon as these words escaped Eve's mouth, Gaia's eyes went wide, and the veins in her eyes popped, turning her eyes red. We were being scammed. We sell the 80% pure healing potion for 9,000 and the 90% one for 12,000. When I get my hands on that motherfucker who is screwing us, I'll cut his head and shove it way above where the sun doesn't shine. Gaia's words frightened Eve as she never expected a girl like her to be so foul-mouthed and brash. Eve looked at Nightmare to see him grinning embarrassedly. You'll get used to it. That's not a problem we have to deal with right now. Eve, who was the first person to get infected? Asked Michael. A dark elf. But he is buried in Xianxia, a village in Ysirius. I don't think they would let us excavate his remains. We will get arrows instead. Permission. There is no way they would let us. Then we want, Michael calmly said, visits. For a better user experience, we will go there by night, dig his grave, take whatever Ghost needs, and get the hell out of there before no one notices us. Gaia quickly laid out a plan as Eve stared at them wide-eyed. It was shocking to see Ghost and Elia talk so casually about grave robbing inside a dark elf territory. Usually, Eve would have stopped them, but looking at her sister and thinking about her family, she couldn't say no to something that might lead Ghost to find a cure. Are you sure you can find a cure for this? The last time Eve heard, the entire kingdom of Thera and the Empress Court of Healers were trying to come up with a cure yet had no breakthrough. However, Ghost talked so simply about finding a cure. His words sounded confident rather than arrogant. Somehow, Eve believed he could really find the cure. After all, Michael had a reputation for pulling several miracles, such as becoming the youngest fusion stage cultivator. Even Rowena wasn't as young as Michael when she reached the fusion stage. But before we do anything, we need more healing potions. Unfortunately, I don't have enough to keep everyone in the castle sustained. Can you brew enough potions if you had the ingredients? Eve quickly asked Ghost. If I brewed until the nightfall, we would have enough to keep them alive until I come up with a cure. What about moving to another safe house or something? Those guys who attacked you won't stay far away for long. They might get impatient and try to wipe you out. I know a place. Eve quickly thought of the place her father bought weeks before he fell sick. Since it was a recent purchase, none of the outsiders knew about it. Does this place happen to have a portal connected to it? Unfortunately, Eve shook her head. We have to fly there. Michael pondered for a moment before standing up from the bed. Okay, race the plan. Elia, put everyone in a large carriage and fly there. I will stay here and brew the healing potions. Michael could fly to Eve's safe place with the two girls, but Michael wanted to stay in the castle to kill in case anyone showed up to wipe out the Voldegards. Suppose House Rotgard sent fusion stage cultivators to finish the job. In that case, Michael could turn into Dark Lord, wipe them out and earn enough experience points to level up without worrying about revealing his true self. Ghost had to fear making enemies but not the Dark Lord. Why are you doing this, Ghost? You have only known me for a few days, Yves's voice stuttered. To be honest, I have this feeling. A feeling you and I are so close, like best friends. For a change, Michael just told Eve the truth instead of making up a story. Eve was completely taken aback by surprise as she too had the same feeling. Visits. For a better user experience despite everything, Eve sadly chuckled. I have the same feeling too. Is it weird? I mean, we've only known each other for a few days, but I feel like we've known each other for ages. I think we may have been best friends in our previous lives. Who knows? We may have been. Michael just smiled before looking at the front yard through the hole in the window. The previously neatly taken care of and pruned front yard now looked like a battlefield. All those soldiers deserved a proper burial, but Michael had the living to save. After finding the cure, he didn't only have the chance to get rich but also had a way to solidify his friendship with House Voldegard. If he played his cards right, he could become an influential person in R right out of the bat. To achieve anything, he had to find the cure first. Follow me. I will show you the storage. I have to give you everything you need before I lose consciousness like the others. Eve gestured at them to follow her behind. She took a deep breath and took each step with great difficulty. When you lose consciousness, just relax and try not to worry about anything. When you wake up, everything will be back to normal, Michael said, following Eve through the corridor. I doubt it, Ghost. Most of the protectors are dead except my father and uncle. Even if you managed to cure them, it'd be near impossible for the House Voldegard to get back on its feet. Difficult times lie ahead, Ghost. Although Eve sounded strong, Michael could sense the sorrow and despair in her tone. As she said, even if he cured the plague, the House Voldegard wouldn't be as strong as it used to be. Several other clans might attempt to take over the Voldegard or what's left of it, like vultures. However, there was a way where House Voldegard could survive and dominate Thera. We can help you with that, but it depends on how ruthless you are, Gaia exclaimed. Even with Ghost, if Eve didn't have the resolution and ruthlessness to do what's necessary, no one could revive House Voldegard. Michael and Gaia were on the same wavelength as she had the same idea as Michael. I saw my men getting slaughtered in front of my eyes. They died so House Voldegard could live. I think that would make me more ruthless than you actually think I am, Elia. Good. When you are in a position where you can't reach your foes, bring them down to your level, how are we going to do that? Eve curiously asked Gaia. We are going to use the plague against all your enemies. Eve immediately halted her steps to turn around to look at both Michael and Gaia. Nightmare wasn't as surprised as Eve because he expected it. On the contrary, he would have been surprised if Michael and Gaia didn't try to exploit the plague to their advantage. Visits. For the best no_understanding experience, you are serious? Eve asked, pretty shaken up by Gaia's words. We specialize in dismantling enemies, Eve. Just think of us as your hired fixers, Michael grinned, giving Eve some courage to move forward with their plan. But even if she disagreed, Michael had already decided to weaponize the plague and spread it to his foes. He just needed some guinea pigs, and House Rotgard seemed like a great testing place. After Eve, Gaia and Nightmare left the castle, Michael sat in the middle of a room filled with racks. Each rack contained several rows, and each row had various herbs and ingredients. The whole room contained at least a ton of ingredient one needed to refine thousands of pills and potions. At that moment, Michael had an oak table before him with a bunch of ingredients and empty vials. "My lord, raise the glass of water you asked." Azazel brought Michael a glass of hot water and placed it on the table beside the herbs. Michael's dark flames dimly lit the already dark room. Since Azazel had a physical body, he was helping Michael by bringing the herbs needed to brew the healing potion. "My lord, you've been brewing the healing potion for hours now. You should take a break," Azazel suggested to Michael, only to see Michael shaking his head. "I don't need rest. But what I need is the tissue sample of patient 0. Did you get the blood from the deceased?" "Yes, my lord." Azazel flicked his wrist, taking out 3 vials of dark grayish blood. "I also took the liberty to place spiders inside and around the castle, my lord. Someone may have disrupted the security arrays because I found no resistance. The main warehouse is empty. I assume someone cleaned the place out before the plague broke out. That someone is Eve's father. Apparently, he transported their treasury to the Immortal Council's vault." Immortal Council? This was the first time Azazel had heard about Immortal Council. Michael wasn't familiar with them either until Eve brought it up. Yeah, after someone reaches the half-immortal stage, they would be invited to join the Immortal Council. Eve's ancestor is a member of the council. Still, they got attacked? Azazel questioned Michael. He could understand how a family of someone powerful enough to be the Immortal Council's member could be attacked and almost wiped out from the map. To be honest, Michael asked Eve the same question. First, the council won't meddle in mortal affairs. Michael emphasized the word mortal like he was air quoting the word. That means if you're a council member and your family gets into trouble, you can't pitch in and rescue them. Unless the council members agree upon it. Secondly, those old bastards have lived long enough away from their families to not give a damn about their descendants. How could they do it? I don't know. But I guess, living 300-400 years in seclusion away from friends and family will do that to you, Michael explained to Azazel while throwing the herbs into the dark flames dancing atop his palm. So they have rules against saving their families? Azazel asked, knitting his brows together. I am afraid so. As far as I heard from Eve and Gaia, they are like a bunch of crooked politicians who have nothing but time on their hands. They play politics and cultivate to get higher stages, visits. For a better user experience, but what if a member intervenes in mortal affairs? They just debate over the issue and pass their judgment on you. Which in most cases is kicking you out of the council or smite you to hell. Seems like joining the council has nothing but disadvantages. Azazel frowned as Michael chuckled. Apparently, after reaching the half-immortal stage, climbing each level would take decades. That is, if the cultivator is a genius. So the council gives you unlimited resources to cultivate. In return, you don't meddle in mortal affairs. It makes sense. Just imagine immortals and half-immortals running around the world. They will be absolute superpowers. They could enslave a kingdom if they felt like it. Having a council to put a leash on them is not a bad idea. At least it works great for me. When I wipe out some of the noble families, no one would be there to stop me. I just need to find a way to deal with the fusion stage cultivators. Michael explained his thoughts to Azazel while brewing the potions. So the council is one of the great 8 clans? No, they are like an independent group. As I said, they don't give a shit about anyone. A most one member could do for their descendants is doing small things like providing access to a vault. Azazel nodded as Michael waved his hand, putting out the dark flames. Then, Michael took the blood vials on the table and kept them before his eyes. Now I just need to find a cure before weaponizing the plague. The last thing I need is to bring down a plague upon my subordinates. One wrong move and everything will come back to bite me in my ass. Michael waved his hand as the vials disappeared from sight. When Michael finally rose from his chair, there were thousands of healing potions glistening in the darkness. The radiant blue light emitted by the healing potions brightened the room. We shall go meet Eve and Gaia. What about this castle, my lord? Just let the rot guards have it. When I am done, there won't be anyone standing against the Voldegards. Although Michael decided to help Voldegards because of Eve, his main goal was to make Voldegards his allies. In addition, having a powerful family by his side would make establishing a name for himself in R much easier. What would you have me do, my lord? Just stay here and monitor the situation. I am pretty sure the rot guards would return soon. Do not make any moves. Just observe and report. Got it? Yes, my lord. The latest __SODs are on _ website. After ordering Azazel to stay in the castle, Michael put the healing potion in his system storage and exited the storage through the dark door. A few hours ago, the dark clouds shrouded the sky, preventing the golden sun rays from reaching the plague-ridden kingdom Thera. Under the rambling thunderclouds, Nightmare soared through the clouds like an arrow carrying a giant carriage on his back. The carriage was large enough to contain 120 people inside, including Eve and Gaia. The Valdegards used the giant carriage to transport massive pillars to build castles and bridges. A rare race called giants pulled these carriages from one end to another. Fortunately, Nightmare grew almost 18 meters long to carry the carriage upon his back. Inside the carriage, Eve leaned against the carriage holding Gaia's hand. I don't think I have much longer. Are we there yet? You tell us. Where are we going? Asked Gaia after hearing Eve's weak voice. You will see. Eve gently brushed Jennifer's head which lay on Eve's lap. Her face had almost turned to stone-like color. In simple words, Jennifer seemed like a statue. How did you meet Ghost? Eve turned her gaze towards Gaia. Just like you, I was in a helpless situation. I thought I was done for. But he changed my life. I have lost count of how many times he pulled some shit no one would imagine. You really think he could find the cure, huh? I know he would. Trust me, you will recollect all these events and laugh soon. I wish. Eve let out a deep breath as Gaia felt Nightmare slowing down. Hey, I think we reached the place. Elia, you should come out. Gaia sensed a tinge of shock in Nightmare's voice. Therefore, Gaia squeezed Eve's hand, reassuring her before dashing out of the carriage. As soon as she exited the carriage, her eyes went so wide to the point her eyes looked like they could pop out any moment. The reason for her shock was the barren floating mountain on the horizon. The floating mountain looked like a sword. The base was the blade, and the tall pillar resembled the hilt from which an elegant streamy waterfall flowed. However, unlike the floating mountains she had seen in the Aquilan realm, the sword-like floating mountain was barren and void of any man-made buildings. Visits. For the best no_v__ng experience other than the waterfall, there was nothing in the floating mountain. After starting at the barren floating mountain for a few minutes, the duo resumed flying and approached the island. The closer they got, the bigger the floating mountain looked. Yet, it was far from exceeding the floating mountains in the Aquilan realm by far. It took Nightmare and Gaia a few minutes to land on the barren land and put down the carriage on the ground. Considering the ground had no trees, and the clouds above them looked dark and gloomy, Gaia decided to keep them inside the carriage instead of taking them out. She didn't want the sick people to get drenched in heavy rain. This place looks good. Nightmare creased his brows. This place looks barren and deserted. There is nothing in the place that would make anyone say it's good. You lack imagination, lizard. Nightmare rolled his eyes. I don't lack imagination, but I just don't see the point of imagining anything in the place. It's not ours. Gaia grinned without telling what was going on inside her dead to Nightmare. They'll go take a look around the place. You stay here and make sure they stay safe. Gaia didn't even wait for Nightmare's agreement as she took off from the ground to fly around the floating mountain. A few minutes later, Nightmare shrunk his size to enter the carriage. However, when he came to Eve, he noticed her skin color had slightly changed to gray. At that moment, Eve was sleeping peacefully while holding Jennifer's hand in one hand and her hammer in the other. Now that he had brought Eve and the Voldegards to a safe place, all he could do was wait for Ghost to find a cure for the plague. But something told Nightmare, Gaia and Ghost would take full advantage of the plague before curing it. After flying around the barren mountain for an hour, Gaia finally returned to the carriage. This time, she wasn't alone but brought Ghost with her. Ghost. Nightmare welcomed Ghost with a wide grin as usual. He slowly hovered above the sick people to reach Eve. Instead of pouring the potion into Eve's mouth, Michael placed his hand on Eve's neck, which was burning hot. Injecting the APD filled with 90% pure healing potion. The latest underscores are on website. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.